No, but Crystal's gonna bring some food in. Hey, what's up?
So should I go live?
Yeah, let's go like.
So I'll tell you later. So sit. I'll watch. This is essentially what it's going to be. I'll show you real quick.
Okay.
So you'll have a solo Tesla, right? Solo Jehu,
Okay.
and then if you want to
Yeah. Okay.
go
Go live.
so actually, do you want to go live with you or me?
Yeah, yeah, with me. Doo-doo-doo.
Oh, actually, we're live, dude.
Oh, we are?
Give me 1 second.
No, we're not. Come on.
Okay, so I didn't realize that as soon as you hit the thing to get the stream key, it goes live. So you're live right now.
Oh, there's 50, 60,
Let me
61
switch
people.
the chat so that you can see your.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So apparently we are live. We're going to go live for the battery day. I don't know. I think there's an investor uh, conversations before. It's an investor meeting. And then I don't know how long that's going to go for. But then supposedly at the end of that, then that's when battery day will start. And so that's when we'll start talking about it. For now, I guess what we can do is just talk about batteries and what you guys think that it's going to be announced. There's a lot of speculation about what is going to be announced, and I have no idea what it is, obviously. But I have some ideas, right? I mean, all I know is what people have been saying out there. They've been saying that it's going to be the tablets design. Well, actually, I think that's probably going to be the most important. The people thinking that it's going to be something about the super caps, maybe, but I don't know how they're going to use super caps. To tell you the truth, right? Like, that's not a thing. Let me close this door so that you have to reroute this cable, huh?
Yeah, I didn't have time to set up
So apparently we're nine
Oh, is that too small?
minutes away. Um, yeah, and I can go and watch it here.
You can have your laptop or whatever.
Yeah, I have my phone right here that I'm watching. At the studio? Yes, I'm at the studio. If you guys haven't, we've been recording some of the podcasts here, but you guys haven't seen them except the one that I uploaded yesterday. That was the very first one. Tesla Battery Day. There you go. Yeah, so what do you guys think is going to happen? Oh, look, the Archimedes effect is there. Brian is remote. He's in he's in the chat right here. The Netherlands can see you. Just want to tell you that I love you and the samba. Thank you for that, Amir. Um, yeah, Tesla Battery Day will start in 8 minutes. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that it's going to be the. Yeah, oh, I want to see. Maybe not. We should have Tesla's stock in the screen too, just to see what is Tesla stock right now. By the way, anyone in the chat are stockholders because there's totally a lot of speculation as to what this is going to be. Oh yeah, Tesla is up. Oh yeah, it's up like crazy right now. So if you have stock right now in Tesla, you're up 17%, 117? No, 4.1. How does that work? It shows it red for some reason, but it's not red. Uh, well, actually, it does show it red. Why is it showing it red? 427, right? That's the current price right now. Huh. We should put. Is there a way for you to put the stock on the screen?
Yeah,
Can you put a stock?
yeah, yeah. Like the ticker.
The stock. Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's find it. Let me find it.
Because as he's announcing,
Mhm.
424 says Dan. Well, my thing shows 427. I think that stock is gonna jump like crazy. Well, it's been slow, and I think the reason why it was slow is because he announced that whatever he's going to announce today will most likely not take effect until 2021. Unfortunately, right? And it's crazy because as soon as he announced that, the stock just went low. I'm seeing it down 25. Yeah, so there's oh, market is closed. Why is market closed on the day? No, it shouldn't be closed, right? It's a it should it's the middle of the day right now, right? In New York, so oh yes, it is closed. You're right. I don't understand this. Why is the market closed right now? I don't understand the markets, the stock market. But it does showing that it's 17 up, but this is after hours somehow. That's weird. There we go. 427 after hours. There you go. Yes. Market is on the East Coast, closes at 4 p.m. Oh, yeah. So it's 4. So it just closed. Wow. So he's going to make oh, I see. I see. So it's going to wow, he's going to make these announcements after right after. I wonder why he's doing that. And I guess he's a bit late, right? Because it's well, no, I think it's the right time. Yeah. Well, I don't really know what's gonna happen. Um, I don't really know what's gonna happen, but I think the tablet's design is going to be key right here. Let's speculate. Let's speculate a little bit on what's going to happen because I mean, maybe he has the battery that is going to have much more. I mean, what does he need? Like, do we need a battery that has a lot more energy density? Well, yes, that would be an awesome battery because that would allow you to put more battery into the same space and the same weight, right? And so that would allow to have a car that goes farther. Now, I don't know if we need any more than like 300 miles that we have, right? Because we need probably more fast charging infrastructure. That way, you could just go wherever you want to go. But that means that the battery itself could go smaller, right? And so then, if the battery can go smaller, then if that battery is cheaper, then that's a win-win, right? So um, now the way the tablet design, that's where the tablet design would come in, right? Like if you have a smaller battery, you still have to put it out the same levels of power, right? So um, thinking about like the Model S, for example, that one is like 450 kilowatt or something, right? So you're still going to need 450, maybe more, right? As the specs of these vehicles and the performance specs of these vehicles keep getting bigger, so or keep going higher, then that's battery. It's going to be needed to deliver those kinds of powers. Now, if that tablet design could do that, right, and not only can it do it at the current size, right? Could do it better, but then all of a sudden you can shrink that battery to smaller size, right? Most people think that we're going to have these cars that have 1,000 miles of range. I don't think that's ever going to happen, and Elon has said that, right? And I think the reason is because no one really needs it. Like no one needs 1,000 miles. You just need that like once or twice a year, or very specific cases you would need that. Like if you're a taxi or if you're a semi truck or something like that, then you would need that much. Um, range, but like the average person, the mass market does definitely did not need that much range. And so I think what we're going to see instead in the mass market application of these batteries is going to be that they shrink, they become smaller, right? And maybe not smaller in the range, but smaller physically and weight and size. And then hopefully that's going to mean that it's they're going to be less expensive, right, or less costly. And so that way, then it's going to that tablet design is going to have that much effect in the thing, right? So I don't know. That's speculation, of course, because we absolutely have no idea what he's going to talk about. The picture here, people are speculating that those mean nanostructures or nano something, and that's going to be the because that's what he's going to be releasing into the battery, a new battery that has that thing in there. Maybe, I don't know. What is those things? Does anybody know what those things are there? They certainly looks like hairs, like someone didn't shave. Ah, the mic isn't sync. Yeah, I think there's some weird thing with this setup here. We definitely had to change it a bit to be able to get it working this way because we have it set up for a podcast, but now I'm going live, and I guess this is a good thing because eventually I probably want to do some of these podcasts live, but I have two BLDC controllers, 160 amps, all use a 60 volt. Oh man, that thing just went. 360 range would recharge to 80% under an hour. Well, I mean, we have that right now. 360 miles of range, you can recharge at the 80% in under an hour. We have that now. That exists. That's not a technology, that thing, that is for the future. Like that, we have that now. The problem with people think that supercaps will allow you to supercharge, and fast, and that is true. But we don't really need that. Batteries can supercharge right now, really fast, and I don't think we're hitting the we're not hitting the limits of charging speeds on the current battery right now. So, oh, okay, it started. Let's see, Misa, patch that up. Am I going to be able to listen to that? Yeah, I'm seeing if he can patch the sound. Oh, no audio on Tesla stream.
I'm working on it, but there is no audio on his feed either.
Oh, okay. So,
It's just footage. So let
okay.
me figure out how to patch him anyway. Like, I mean, I do want to be able to patch it to you.
Oh, to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Apparently, there's no sound in this images that he's playing. That seems strange to me. Okay, so there's no sound on the Tesla stream. All right, well, perfect. I guess he was counting on all of us restreamers. Look at those batteries. Those are likely 2170s. Those are from the production of the Model 3s. Yeah, look at that. Those rotors there seem like they have permanent magnets. Ooh, look at that. Does he have a motor on his screen there? Yeah, that's pretty cool. How many of you guys in the stream here are driving a Tesla? Probably, most likely, a Tesla Model 3, like we're seeing here with the dogs. You know what's so weird? My dogs are always on my bus for a long time. Not so much on the Tesla. The Tesla is my wife's, and I think she's put the dogs in there a few times. she's not super keen to have the dogs on the. I guess she likes her Tesla too much. Yeah, I haven't experienced that. The self. What is that called? It's the summons and the self parking and all this other stuff. Tesla 400 kilowatts, 250 kilometers an hour. My volume is low. Is my volume low? Can anyone else confirm? Or it's just Carlos E. Carly? Maybe it's just his setup. Enhanced summons. Yeah, I don't have that. Should I buy that? They just made. They basically just split the autopilot or autonomous driving, right? And they gave you all the.
Hey, what's up, brother? How
What's
are you?
up, Joe?
Good to see you.
It's great seeing you.
Oh, there we go. Heard some audio. Yeah, they basically just split the autonomous. Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you will be able to hear that.
Oh, okay. Whenever it comes on. Okay, so I heard some audio right now on my thing, and so apparently whenever the audio from the main thing comes up, we'll patch it through, and you get to hear. Look at all that. Look, those trucks with those Teslas. That is a common sight here in California, as they bring all those cars down to Southern California because we're one of the biggest car markets in the world. So here in our neighborhoods, every other house has a Tesla now, which is really weird to see because that is a dream. It's literally a dream come true for me. I've been, preaching the EV dream for 7-8 years now, right? And so Joe Rogan, yes, I guess he was just playing some audio on the thing and he patched it through to see if it would hear it. So I'm glad to see that you guys were able to hear that little thing too, because that means whenever there's sound over there, we'll listen to it. Tesla sucks. The Porsche electric has the better performance. Maybe. We shall see, right? Porsche still doesn't have cars that are for mass market. So these are completely different car markets. They're different sectors of the market. And definitely Porsche might make better supercars, right? Which is where they do. But they don't do it yet. They have one little car that is kind of expensive and it's kind of rare. And it outperforms the Teslas in some aspects, but not all. And yeah, I don't know. Well, we shall see, right? Like when Tesla releases a car that it's supposed to be its peer or its match, we shall see if it beats it. Let's see here. Do we have any? Porsche don't have a proven EV. Yeah, it's too early to tell. I think they'll do great. Like to tell the truth, like Porsche's a good car company, right? Like they have been making awesome vehicles for a long time, and people who own Porsches love them. They're longtime, fans, and so I think this is just their first EV, right? Their entry into this market. I think eventually they will make something that is very, very compelling. Something I don't think they're ever going to make something that's affordable. Porsche's not about that. So again, it's still going to be one of these things that are on the higher end markets, and that's the thing, right? People, is Tesla more of a hype? No, not so much. Tesla is delivering cars. We're all driving their cars, and definitely no hype there. They are amazing cars. They are amazing driving machines. As many of you guys that are watching this, right? I did a question yesterday. Who enhanced summons? Yeah. So basically now he split the part that he can actually offer you, and then he's not charging you for the part that he can't. So I think it was like $8,000 to get the the fully autonomous thing on the car, right? And I didn't sign for that, right? Because I was like, why, $8,000 for something that is gonna come, who knows when, way into the future. I didn't want to do that, and so apparently now the parts that you can get, like summons, and there's a few other little things. Oh, like self parking, and then like lane changing, right? Like automatic, you basically just tell it to go. It changes lane. It does all this other stuff. This is the stuff that you had to pay the $8,000 to get, but apparently, we just got an email a few days ago saying like, oh, you can get enhanced summons or enhanced. Yeah, I said enhanced summons. I don't know what it's. I don't know what it's called, but now you could do it for $4,000. But of course, that doesn't include the main feature, which is not here yet, which is still out into the future. And so I don't know. It's but then you'll have to pay $5,000 to get that. So he's still giving it to you cheaper, right? $8,000 if you think that's cheap. That's not cheap at all, by the way, for something that you can't have right now, right? And the weird thing is that I've heard that they take that money and put it in an escrow, which is weird. That means that Tesla can't have it either. Like you put $8,000, they take it and put it in an escrow account or somewhere where they can use it. Apparently, because they can't touch that money because they haven't delivered the goods, and they have a problem doing that, right? So, minimalist machine. Yes, Teslas seem to be minimalist. It's a simple technology. I mean, there's nothing simple about it. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood of Teslas, but really, it just seems like it's super. When it comes to mechanical things, nav and autopilot, auto lane change, auto park, and summons at $4,000. Full self-driving and 8,000, but will go up. Yes, so they will. It will keep going up apparently as it becomes more available. So you can lock it in early right now for $8,000, right? But the thing is, it's such a weird thing because, like, okay, I have a Model 3 right now. I don't expect to have that Model 3 forever. Like, I don't expect to have that Model 3 maybe even next year. I want to change it, right? It's like, let's try the Model Y or something. It's so weird to be like, well, I'm going to lock in. I'm going to pay $8,000 for a thing that is not going to come, that is more likely than not going to come this year or next year, right? So it doesn't make sense to pay that. And unless you're one of those people that are going to keep your Model S or something like that for the next 10 years, right? And so I guess that's only the case where it would make sense, but I think for most people, they change cars. Hope Model 2 is coming at 20,000. Yeah, is he gonna release a smaller, more affordable car? Maybe, right? I haven't seen anything on it. What's with the new battery sizes? Okay, so we don't really know what's going to happen today, but there's a lot of speculation. There's a leak. There's some pictures leak of a bigger battery, like sort of like almost like soda can size, right? Apparently, it's something like 48 millimeters by 80 or something like that. And we don't really know why or how, but it kind of makes sense. Look, each battery cell has its casing, right? And so what happens is that 4175 conjecture, there you go, around that size. Yeah, so somewhere around there, 40, 4175, 4080, something like that, right? It's bigger than the 2170s by a lot. And so oh, do I hear something? I thought I heard something on my headphones there. So what's happening is that oh, there we go. He's about to start. Let's shut up. And by the way, I hope you guys don't mind me talking over the shareholder meeting because Oh yeah, so they're having trouble with their mics too. The battery size, it makes sense because the bigger the battery, the less there's less casing that there is, and so when you split it up into over 5,000 cells, if you
Good afternoon, everyone.
oh, there we go. Good afternoon.
Welcome to Tesla's 2020 annual meeting of stockholders. We're really excited that you could be here with us today. My name is Al Prescott. I'm Tesla's Vice President of Legal.
Ooh,
There'll be two
lawyer.
parts of today's meeting. First, the formal part of the meeting will get out of the way, which will cover the 7 items that stockholders have been asked to vote on. After the voting, I'll introduce Tesla's co-founder and CEO, Elon Musk, who will give a presentation about the company update and year in review. And then following the conclusion of the stockholder meeting, we'll start our separate Battery Day event. At this time, I'd like to thank the members of the Tesla team and our board, especially those who were able to make it out here in person today, as well as to our representative from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Tesla's independent auditor, who's also here. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Robin Denholm, the chairwoman of Tesla, who would like to say a few words remotely.
Remote. Everybody's remote, apparently.
Thank you, Al.
Oh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Tesla shareholder meeting. A special welcome to the many Tesla shareholders that have joined us today in person, as well as online from across the country and around the globe. I wanted to start today's proceedings by thanking you, our shareholders, for your tremendous support over the last year, and especially to those of you who have been with us through our journey over the past 10 years since the company's IPO in 2010. While we have stayed true to our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, in many ways, our company has evolved beyond recognition over the past decade, and that is a great thing. In fact, the pace of developments and the evolution of Tesla has further accelerated over the past 15 months since I last addressed you in June of 2019. You'll hear more about many of the specific achievements from Elon later in the agenda, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our Tesla employees across the globe who have done a tremendous job of executing and staying focused on delivering for our customers and shareholders as the world has gone through one of the most challenging periods in our lifetimes. As a board, we have always taken a long-term view. We have made decisions and supported decisions made by the management team that may not have seemed obvious at the time, but are delivering and will continue to deliver breakthrough results. But it's also important to remember why we do this. As a company, we are focused on addressing one of the biggest environmental challenges of our generation: how to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. The last year in particular has seen a tremendous increase in momentum in the movement to sustainable energy from both shareholders and the general public. So in addition to developing amazing clean transportation and energy products, we are doing our part by contributing the right facts and information to this important issue. And we released an extended version of our impact report in April of 2020. In this year's version, we have covered in great detail many areas that are important to our shareholders and our customers alike, such as our environmental impact, greenhouse and other noxious gas elimination, our supply chain efforts, especially in cobalt, and our culture and people focus. We hope that by continuing to put this data out there, we will underscore to the world the importance and impact that we are having as a company. Lastly, continuous feedback and input from our shareholders is essential for us to do our jobs, and I would like to thank you for your support in this regard. Many of you have provided me and the team with ideas and insights that we as a board take into consideration as we evolve our governance and company practices. It's especially crucial to the board members as we pride ourselves in adaptability and the diversity of thought and experience that we collectively represent on the board. This brings me to my final two things today. As today is his last shareholder meeting, on behalf of the board, I would like to sincerely thank Steve Jurvetson for over a decade of service to Tesla, the board, and our shareholders. You will be missed. Finally, I would like to introduce to you our newest member of the board, Hiro Mizuno, who until recently led the largest pension fund in the world. He brings a wealth of experience to the board, but let me hand over to Hiro to say a few words. Hiro.
Thank you, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tesla Annual Shareholders Meeting. It is my real pleasure to virtually meet you, Tesla shareholders, people who believe in Tesla's mission and its growth opportunities. I spent all my career in finance and asset management in Tokyo, New York, London, and Silicon Valley. Until recently, I was a chief investment officer of GPIF, $1.5 trillion Japanese public pension fund.
Whoa.
And one of my priorities as an investment chief was to promote responsible investments, which aim to make financial returns while pursuing ESG agenda, such as environment and social issues. I believe in the market where ESG is becoming mainstream, purpose or mission-driven businesses will gain long-term investors' support. This is why I was interested in Tesla, where mission is to accelerate the world transition to sustainable energy. I'm very excited to join the Tesla team on that journey and hope to assist Tesla deliver what investors expect by further enhancing its environmental and social impact. Once again, Tesla shareholders, thanks for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin and Hiro. I will now call the meeting to order. Please refer to the meeting agenda that has been provided to you and posted also to our virtual meeting site. The time is now 1:49 p.m. Pacific time, and I declare that the polls are now open. We've already received voting proxies from stockholders over the past few weeks, meaning that almost all of the votes that will be counted were already submitted before the meeting. However, if you wish to vote now or to change your prior vote, you may do so through the virtual meeting site. For those that are here in person today, ballots and ballot boxes were available to you at check-in. Tesla's board of directors has appointed Computershare Trust Company to serve as inspector of elections for the meeting. Computershare has taken and signed an oath as inspector of election and has certified that starting on August 13th, 2020, the proxy material or a notice of internet availability of the proxy material were mailed or provided to all Tesla stockholders of record as of July 31, 2020. We have a majority of the outstanding shares represented at the meeting. So I declare that there is now a quorum present and that we may proceed with the meeting. The items on the agenda are as follows. The election of 3 Class 1 directors, Elon Musk, Robin Denholm, and Hiromichi Mizuno, to each serve for a term of 3 years. 2, to approve Tesla's executive compensation on an advisory basis. And 3, to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers, LLP, as Tesla's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year of 2020. Tesla's board has recommended that our stockholders vote for each of the director nominees and for each of those proposals. In addition, we have also received 4 stockholder proposals, as described in the proxy statement. I would like to remind our stockholders that Tesla's board has prepared a statement in opposition to each of these proposals, which appear in the proxy. The first stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding paid advertising. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal comes to us from James Danforth. However, Mr. Danforth has notified us that neither he nor his representative will be presenting the proposal at the meeting today. So we will continue. The second stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. The proposal comes from James McRitchie, who is on the line to present the proposal today. Mr. McRitchie, I would like to invite you now to present. You'll have 3 minutes.
They're rolling their Tesla.
I'd like to thank the board for holding such an innovative hybrid meeting during these difficult times. Proposal number 5 basically asks for a majority voting standard to amend bylaws. I first introduced a proposal on this subject at the 2014 Tesla meeting. Supermajority provisions are generally used to entrench incumbent directors and managers. Academic research finds that reducing such devices is
No wonder why I
associated with
heard
higher
people
returns.
honking.
The board's opposition statement argues they tried to adopt a majority standard last year, but shareholders rejected it. However, 99.6% of shares voted for the proposal. Only 0.4% voted against it. The problem was that a little more than 35% of shares went unvoted. The vast majority of retail shareholders often don't bother to vote. Since only 65% of shares were voted, we didn't achieve the 66.67% necessary to overturn the current supermajority bylaw. It appears the proposal failed primarily for 3 reasons. 1, the board put forth less than robust arguments in favor. 2, they added confusion with another proposal to reclassify the board not into a single class, that's the norm, but into 2 classes, elected in alternating years. 3rd, the board also failed to make a substantial effort to solicit votes in favor. Also, please consider this proposal in context with other poor corporate governance provisions at Tesla. First, shareholders can only remove directors for cause. What that basically means is the director has to be caught in criminal activity for shareholders to remove them. Second, because the board is divided into 3 classes, shareholders can only hold individual directors accountable every 3 years. And third, shareholders cannot call special meetings nor can act by written consent. I hope you will agree. Corporations should not be democratic free zones. Vote for proposal number 5 so that 33% of shares cannot overrule the wishes of 67%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McRitchie. We'll now move on to our 3rd stockholder proposal, which is an advisory vote regarding reporting on employee arbitrations. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This proposal comes from NIA Impact Capital, whose representative, Kelly Hall, is on the line to present the proposal today. Ms. Hall, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and present. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kristen Hull, and I'm the founder and CEO of NIA Impact Capital. I formally move proposal 6. This resolution requests that Tesla's board of directors oversee the preparation of a report on the impact of the use of mandatory arbitration on Tesla's employees and on its workplace culture. The report will evaluate the association of Tesla's current use of arbitration with the prevalence of both harassment and discrimination in its workplace, and on employees' ability to seek redress should harassment or discrimination occur. This proposal speaks to the widespread experience of discrimination in the workplace by Black, Latinx, and female employees, despite this discrimination being unlawful under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Tesla has faced a number of serious allegations of racism and sexism at its Buffalo and Fremont plants. Companies that allow bias, discrimination, and harassment in their workplaces are at risk for unnecessary legal, brand, financial, and human capital issues. Support for this resolution is warranted for the following 5 The use of arbitration exposes investors to an unknown level of risk. 4. Broad concerns exist with respect to fair treatment in Tesla workplace, and Tesla employees have alleged harassment and discrimination on the basis of both race and gender. Tesla, a company investors love for its innovation, leadership, and wise moat, is increasingly lagging behind its peers in its disclosure related to workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unlike the forward-thinking and innovation in its extraordinary product line, Tesla has not shown proactive leadership in building a positive company culture or in addressing concerns about its workplace practices. In these material issues, Tesla lags behind its technology and automotive competitors. The use of arbitration limits employees' remedies for wrongdoing, precludes employees from suing in court, and often keeps underlying facts, misconduct, or case outcomes secret, therefore preventing employees from learning about and acting on shared concerns. Simply stated, arbitration allows bad corporate behavior, like bias, harassment, and discrimination to continue, hidden from employees and investors. To maintain Tesla's wide moat, it is essential that the board seriously assess the implications of the use of arbitration and that Tesla begin to take seriously the need to ensure a fair, equitable, positive, and inclusive workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Our fourth and final proposal is an advisory vote regarding reporting on human rights. Our board has recommended that stockholders vote against this proposal. This proposal comes to us from the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, whose representative, Terrence Collingsworth, is on the line to present today. Mr. Collingsworth, I would like to invite you to speak now. You have 3 minutes for your proposal.
Thank you. I'm Terry Collingsworth, Executive Director of the International Rights Advocates. I'm here representing the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, to present Item 7 on human rights disclosure, which calls upon Tesla to issue a report to describe board oversight of human rights and its human rights due diligence process, including systems to provide meaningful remedies when human rights impacts occur. Tesla faces serious human rights issues, and failure to establish a culture of respect for human rights will expose Tesla to new liability issues and significant reputational injury, all of which will have a material impact on the company and its shareholders. The need to set a new course for human rights compliance at Tesla is glaring. Here are 5 examples of human rights violations occurring now in Tesla's operations. Racism, sexual harassment, and disregard for human safety and dignity harm workers at the Gigafactory 2 in Buffalo, New York every single day, and those workers urge you to remember their experiences in your vote. Tesla has experienced serious labor relations issues at its production facilities and is actively discouraging union organizing. Workers are being exposed to COVID-19 and then are facing retaliation when they ask for greater protections. There are numerous worker health and safety violations as well as wage and hour issues. And finally, there are serious, even deadly human rights violations occurring in Tesla's global supply chains. On this last issue, my organization brought the pending suit against Tesla for using cobalt mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo by young children. I personally met young boys who lost limbs or were paralyzed in cobalt tunnel collapses. Tesla sources cobalt from these very mines, and its claim to have, quote, zero tolerance for child labor in its supplier code of conduct is simply not true. Tesla is not only tolerating child labor in its cobalt supply chain, it is tolerating the death and maiming of young child miners. This demonstrates why the company must circle back and begin a process to report on its treatment of human rights issues as requested in this proposal. I think consumers will have zero tolerance for a company that is exposed as being indifferent to killing and maiming child minors. We are hopeful that Tesla's innovative spirit can be brought to bear on making human rights a priority at the company. For example, if Elon Musk cared about implementing a zero-tolerance child labor policy, instead of having a useless paper policy, Tesla could employ satellites or drones at every mine it sources from to actually monitor child labor. I encourage all Tesla shareholders to vote for Item 7, Human Rights Disclosure. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Collinsworth. At this time, I'd like to thank our stockholders for all of their active participation in today's meeting and for those who just presented on the line. I'd also like to read some of the comments that have been submitted by you over the course of the meeting. The first comment comes from Michael Overbaugh. I take great pride in the fact that we haven't had to stoop to the level of what advertising represents to get where we are today. I'd hate to give in to that kind of temptation now when we're so close to becoming a household name that's based solely on our merit alone. But if assets do end up having to be set aside for marketing, I'd like to suggest that rather than shoving ads down the customers' throats, we establish some sort of hardcore nationwide campaign and event with the goal of getting as many people as possible behind the wheel of a Tesla for an introduction drive. It's well known how far just doing that alone goes to converting people into fans. A line I recently ran across says, you can talk all about the specs as much as you want, but when it comes to buying a car, what ultimately puts butts in seats is the feeling that the vehicle gives you. By demonstrating that Tesla clearly has both the specs and the feeling, what more needs saying? Our second comment comes from the United Steelworkers on behalf of the Clean Air Now Coalition of Western New York by Sabrina Liu.
Take advantage of it, so they create a bunch
Proposal, and it reads as follows. Proposals 6 and 7
I don't know how Tesla's
up for vote this year
a big
are the results of widespread concern about mistreatment of Tesla workers at U.S. factories and across the supply chain.
What I'm saying, right? Oh, they
It
could.
is clear that Tesla is not interested in addressing the harm they have caused to their workers, as their board is advising shareholders to vote against the proposal. We're urging all shareholders to vote in favor of proposals 6 and 7. And on behalf of our workers at the United Steelworkers here in Western New York, and for Tesla employees across the country and across the global supply chain, while this doesn't repair the harm that's already been caused to countless employees, nor repair harm to children and communities forced into slave labor in the DRC,
Yeah, I don't know.
they represent
Apparently
steps
they
towards a
can't
more
hear me.
just
Apparently
workplace
you
at
guys can
Tesla.
hear me well over this robot.
This concludes all of the comments. Thank you all for your participation in the comments. We'll now have a final opportunity for any of you to submit proxies in order for them to be counted. So I'll pause and wait for a moment for you to do that.
All right, so now everybody's voting. Yeah.
Okay. I declare that the polls are now closed. So based on the proxies that we have previously received, I'd like to announce on a preliminary basis that our stockholders have approved the recommendations of Tesla's board on all agenda items, other than the stockholder proposal for an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. After the final tabulation is completed, we'll formally announce the results of the voting by filing a Form 8K with the SEC within 4 business days of today. This now concludes the official business of Tesla's 2020 Annual Stockholders Meeting, which is now adjourned. Next, we will have a company update and a year in review presented by Elon, and then we will start our Battery Day event. During the course of those following sessions, we may discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. Such statements are predictions based on our current expectations. Actual events or results could materially differ due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those disclosed in our most recent 10-Q filed with the SEC. These forward-looking statements represent our views as of today. They shouldn't be relied on after today, and we disclaim any obligation to update them after today as well. We will now continue with the company update and year in review. And it's my pleasure to introduce Tesla co-founder and CEO, Mr. Elon Musk.
Hey everyone. Well, I mean, this is definitely a new approach. We got the Tesla drive-in movie theater, basically. It's good to see everyone. It's a little hard to read the room with everyone being in cars, but it's it's the only way we could do it. So hopefully it's cool, and hopefully you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, great. All right. Well, thanks for coming. I think it's been an incredible year, and I'd like to thank you for your support through tough times, good times. It's been great. Really appreciate everyone who's put their hard-earned money into Tesla, and I think it's worked out pretty well. This has been a good year, and I think there's many good years to come. So I'll go through the sort of the shareholder presentation, I think, fairly quickly, because the sort of real main event here is Battery Day. So, really, I'm just going through a recap of what's happened over the past year or so. I think starting from in terms of our ability to create a factory, huge kudos to the Tesla Shanghai team for being able to go from literally a dirt pile to volume production in 15 months. It's like, damn. Yeah. So, and I think something that's really quite noteworthy here is Tesla is the only foreign manufacturer to have a 100% owned factory in China. So this is often not well understood or not appreciated, but to have the only 100% owned foreign factory in China is a really big deal, and it's paying huge dividends here. So we really wouldn't have the results that we have had this year without the great efforts of the Tesla China team. So I'm super appreciative of that. And we'll see the Shanghai factory continue to scale quite a bit from where it is right now. I think we really could expect that to be, over time, a factory that produces over 1 million vehicles a year. Yeah, it's cool. So let's see. So we also reached in the past year volume production of the Model Y, and this was the smoothest launch that we've ever had. So I think we're definitely getting better at new vehicle launches and building factories and scaling production. As you've heard me say before, it's the hardest thing is scaling production, especially of a new technology. It's insanely difficult. Making a prototype is relatively easy, and if I think like what is the real achievement of Tesla in sort of car company terms, it's like it wasn't making sort of exciting prototypes. It was that Tesla was really the first company in about a century in the U.S., the first U.S. company in the U.S. to reach volume production and be sustainably profitable. Like the crazy thing is this has really not happened in 100 years. That's the actual super hard part. And we now have 4 vehicles in volume production, S3 XY. So also the toughest joke I think maybe ever. It was a very difficult joke to make. So we also introduced the lowest cost solar in the U.S. It's only $1.49 a watt, and we really just simplified the whole value chain. So reduced sales and advertising, got rid of a bunch of unnecessary costs, and really are just relying upon the fact that it's just the lowest cost, most efficient solar in the U.S., providing both retrofit and the solar glass roof, which I think is a really great product, a hard product to make work, but it will be a major product line in the future. And we also got 4 consecutive quarters of GAAP profitability, which was very difficult. Yeah. So, and certainly a testament to the hard work of people at Tesla. I mean, to do this in extremely difficult times against a wide range of adverse circumstances was insanely hard, but we got it done. So, and I think the future is looking like I think very promising from sort of an annual profitability standpoint. So, in order to achieve, in order to sort of do well financially, you really need economies of scale, and you need ideally the best technology. And I think we've had the best technology for a while, but now we are also achieving economies of scale. So, and we're also rapidly improving autonomy, which is a massive value add to each car. So, you know, I think the value of Tesla is going to be like total, just on the vehicle side, total vehicles produced times the value of autonomy. That's a way to think about the future value of Tesla. We also have consistent free cash flow generation. This is really important for growth. And a key element here is tightening up the time from when a car is ordered to when it is built and delivered. So for a company that's growing rapidly, it's extremely important to tighten the supply chain and to have, from when parts arrive, put it into a car very quickly and deliver the car very quickly to the customer. And if you can do that inside the sort of your kind of payables timeline, then the faster you grow, the more cash you have. Or conversely, if you're unable to do it within your payables timeline, the faster you grow, the less money you will have, which is obviously bad. It's for a capital-intensive situation. So just tightening up and having the parts move very quickly to the factory, put it in a car, get it to a customer, makes a massive difference to cash flow generation. And I mean, that's why it's extremely important to have a factory in each continent. Because if you don't at least have a factory in the continent, it is impossible to achieve this. So having a factory in China that's able to serve China, and then you know, soon many other countries in the region, will be key to us tightening that total sort of chain of cash flow and getting it, essentially the faster we grow, the more cash. This is really important. That's also why it's important to have Giga Berlin complete, because then we'll have a factory in China, a factory in the U.S., and soon a second factory in the U.S. in Austin, and a factory in Europe. And I mean, even if for Giga Texas in Austin, even if we had exactly the same costs as in California, it would still be advantageous to do it there because it's roughly 2/3 of the way across the U.S. So in terms of delivering cars to the central U.S. and to the East Coast, it's just faster, costs less, and it fundamentally improves our economics. So I think this is also maybe something that's not fully appreciated of just how important it is to have a factory at least on the continent or reasonably close to where the end customers is, so you can tighten that whole chain. Industry performance. We've you know, while the rest of industry has gone down, Tesla has gone up. I think this speaks to thanks. And so I'd like to thank all the customers for taking a chance on Tesla and buying our product, and really hope you're enjoying it. This is really, you know, our sales, as Al was saying, really grow by word of mouth. So this is really, I think, a very pure, you know, it's very pure in the sense that it's like, it's growing on the basis of existing owners recommending it to new customers. This is really, I think, a good way to grow. And then in 2019 we had 50% growth, and I think we'll do really pretty well in 2020. probably somewhere between 30 to 40% growth, despite a lot of very difficult circumstances. I mean, there's so many, pandemic, wildfires. It's like a whole bunch of difficult production issues. But thanks to the hard work of the Tesla team and a lot of innovative approaches to overcoming issues, we're able to still see significant growth in one of the most difficult, in fact, I'd say probably the most difficult year of Tesla's existence. So, and we also published our extended impact report. At Tesla, we try very hard to do the right thing. If the right thing does not happen, it's just because we maybe made a mistake or weren't aware of it. But we always try to do the right thing as to the best of our ability. And then we published the extended impact report to show, just a sort of a self-examination of, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better in the future? We're definitely trying to accomplish the most good. And so, if we occasionally make a mistake, we work quickly to fix it and do the right thing. So, it's worth looking at like the average life cycle emissions in the U.S. And just how much better a Tesla is than, or an electric car, than any other, than any kind of gasoline car. And what we'll talk about in the battery day is also just how much the grids around the world and actually, especially in the U.S., are greening. It's actually much faster than I think people realize. The U.S. is moving towards sustainable energy. And so as we move more and more to sustainable energy, then effectively you end up building the solar factories and the car factories themselves with solar. Over time you do, or with sustainable energy. Over time you'll even mine with sustainable energy, and eventually it will get to an effective emissions of 0. So that's where things will end up. Yeah. So we also have safety at the core of our design. The Tesla cars are the safest cars ever designed. We have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the U.S. government, and that's just passive safety. When you add active safety into that, it's even better. So it's really, if safety is important to you, which obviously it is, the safest car you could drive is a Tesla. So I think some people aren't aware of this, but it's really, safety is paramount. It is actually the #1 design objective when we build a Tesla, is safety. Our factories are also becoming safer, and if you look at the sort of accidents per total vehicle made, it's dramatically better than in the past, and it's already better than industry average, and we're confident we can get it to the best in the auto industry. Autopilot functionality continues to improve, and you can see it in the safety report that we publish every quarter. It's just getting better and better. The U.S. average for collisions is at roughly 2.1 per million miles, and with Autopilot engaged, it's 0.3. I mean, this is a profound difference. It really massive, and this will get even better. So we're confident that over time we can get the probability of an accident, especially the probability of injury, to 10 times better than the industry average, like an order of magnitude better. So that's just a lot of lives saved and a lot of injuries avoided. So that's a huge priority for us. On the Autopilot front, I think it's kind of hard for people to judge the progress of Autopilot. Like I'm driving. I as a matter of course, I've always done this. I drive the bleeding edge alpha build of Autopilot, and so I sort of have insight into what is going on. Previously, about a couple of years ago, we were kind of stuck in a local maximum. So we're improving, but like the improvements kind of started tailing off and just not getting where they needed to be. I call this sort of getting trapped in a local maximum. And so we had to do a fundamental rewrite of the entire Autopilot software stack, and all of the labeling software as well. So we're now labeling in 3D video. So this is hugely different from previously where we were labeling essentially a bunch of single images from the 8 cameras, and they would be labeled at different times by different people. And some of the labels, you literally can't tell what it is you're labeling. So it basically made it sort of in some cases impossible to label, and the labels had a lot of errors. Now, with our new labeling tools, we label it in video. So we actually label entire video segments, and the system, so you get basically a surround video thing to label, and with the surround video and with time. So it's now taking all cameras simultaneously, and looking at how the images change over time and labeling that. And then the sophistication of the neural nets in the car and the overall logic in the car has improved dramatically. I think we'll hopefully release a private beta of Autopilot, or the full self-driving version of Autopilot, in I think a month or so, and then people will really understand just the magnitude of the change. It's profound. So yeah. Anyway, so you'll see it's just like a hell of a step change. But because we had to rewrite everything, labeling software, just the entire code base, it took us quite a while, and the sort of new sort of, I call it like 4D in the sense that it's 3 dimensions plus time. It's just taken us a while to rewrite everything, and so you'll see what it's like. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just clearly going to work. Tesla core competencies, we've got engineering, obviously, but also manufacturing. I think manufacturing is underappreciated in general, and the difficulty of designing the machine that makes the machine is vastly harder than the machine itself. So, the designing, like making a Model 3 or Model Y or a Cybertruck prototype is really quite trivial compared to designing the factory that makes it. Especially if it's new technology and you want to use new manufacturing methods, it's just at least 10 to 100 times harder to do the factory than the prototype. And that's why you see a lot of companies out there or startups, they'll bring out a prototype, but they just can't get it over the hump for manufacturing, because manufacturing of new technology especially is the hardest thing by far. Like basically the prototype is at best 10% of the difficulty and probably closer to 1%. And then software. Tesla is both a hardware and a software company. So a huge percentage of our engineers are actually software engineers. And you can think of our car as kind of like a laptop on wheels. And so software is incredibly important. And so not just in the car, but also in the factory. So the factory software is extremely important. Just software in general. These are fundamental. These are the 3 critical areas that are needed to make for an awesome company. So, yeah. So we have now we'll soon have 3 new factories, incremental, on, well, we have one already, on 3 different continents. Shanghai, we're expanding to Shanghai with the 2nd phase. Berlin is making rapid progress, and Texas is making even faster progress. So, yeah. With each factory, what we're trying to do is also improve the manufacturing technology. So, it's in some cases, like the Model Y made in Berlin might look the same, but it actually is made in a much more efficient way. And yeah, we'll talk about that later in the battery presentation. Yeah, launched Megapack. It's a 3 megawatt-hours all-in-one energy storage solution. So it's been great overall. Yeah. All right, and I think that's basically it. Right? All right, thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll be back in a little bit to go through the battery stuff. And there's a little bit more, in addition to the battery stuff, we got a few extras as well. So I think you'll really like what we have to say on batteries. The battery stuff we're going to talk about is truly revolutionary and essential to Tesla's goal. The fundamental good of Tesla. It's like if you look back in history and say what good did Tesla do? The good will be to by how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? That's like the true metric of success. It matters if sustainable energy happens faster or slower, and so that's really like how I think about Tesla and how we should sort of assess our progress. By how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? And what we're going to talk about with batteries and a few other things will really explain how we're going to make a step change improvement in the acceleration of sustainable energy. Thank you.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Hi, folks. That was great. We're going to take a short break before we begin the Battery Day event. So stay tuned. If you're local and here in the audience today, you can feel free to get out of the cars and stretch your legs. But try to stay near the cars because we're going to begin promptly in a little bit. See you soon.
Battery Day, Battery Day, Battery. Yes, let's start the chant. Look at that. Look at all those Tesla holders. Those guys are all excited. They have all kinds of money on Tesla, I bet. Anyways, looking extra thick. Yeah, Elon's looking like thick, like he's been working out. I think he works out now. Yeah, well, that wasn't much, but of course we were expecting that. That was just a shareholders meeting, right? Whatever. Boring stuff. Boring. That's suit stuff, right? And I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of you guys that wear a suit, and you guys are a suit. I'm sorry. I don't mean to pick on you guys, but yeah, definitely for me, like the battery technology is the stuff that excites me, and that's the stuff that we can't wait to hear. What is he gonna announce? He said it's revolutionary. I usually tend to just not pay attention to any of the new revolutionary battery technologies that are announced because, come on, it's just every day there's another next battery technology that is going to revolutionize, and they never come. I mean, literally, the same batteries that they were putting in 2012 on the Model S, right? These are essentially the same batteries that we have today. I mean, they're better incrementally. They've done little things here and there, but as far as energy density, they haven't got much better. I probably the thing that it has improved the most is probably battery life, right? Cycle life, because now they can put them in a car and then guarantee that they're gonna last a long time. Something like 10 years, something in the order probably of like 200,000 miles or something like that. There is a 400,000 mile Tesla Model S out there in the world, and I think from what I remember, maybe you guys can chime in if you know of that Tesla, but I think it was like something like 10% battery degradation at 400,000 miles, which is pretty good, right? Let's see what are you guys saying. What do you guys think it's going to be the thing? Because I don't have any insider information. All I know is the same thing that you guys know, basically what you guys been watching. It looks like our Safeway parking lot. Yes, pretty much. The new Tesla Roadster has range of 620 miles, so it's going to be a better chemistry. I mean, we don't know. It could just be a giant battery. It could literally be a bigger battery. So here's the thing that they can't improve on. And this I know because I have these modules. I play with them. I installing them in cars all the time. They can make the cooling like smaller and therefore cram more batteries into the same space, right? But so you increase the density, right? Because one thing is the energy density of the cell, but another thing is the energy density of the module, right? And when you look, like, for example, at a Model S, well, there's a lot of wasted space. I mean, it's not wasted, right? But it's not battery. It's like structure to hold that battery, right? They're separated into 16 different modules, and people used to think that that was for safety, right? Because that was like, if one catches fire, then if it's isolated from the rest of the battery pack, then the whole pack doesn't go up in flames. Now, that might be true, but then also Elon has said in the past that the reason why they did modular or did modules in the battery, it was because they thought they would be able to service the battery. Like if a module went bad, then they would take it out and they would only replace one module instead of the whole battery, right? As it turns out, he said that that is a thing that it doesn't seem to be needed because they almost never seem to be repairing battery packs. They just either don't go bad as much, or they just somehow, it doesn't make sense to open up that pack, replace the one module with, because now if you think about it, now it's a battery that is not in sync with the rest of them, right? Like it's not well matched, right? If you have one new module and then a bunch of like older degraded modules to a certain degree or whatever, now the BMS has to work harder to be able to make all that work. So as it turns out, I don't know what the reason is, but he said that it never worked out. So now I think what he's going to announce today, what he might announce today, is that the modular battery does no longer exist. It's just one giant battery, right? No longer separate modules. So they could improve in that. But the thing is, the weight of the battery, it's still not going to change, right? So if you put a bigger battery into that Roadster that is capable of doing over 500 miles, it could be just a really big, heavy battery, which might not be a thing that it's bad. I mean, yeah, a really heavy supercar, it's not a good thing, right? Because then it won't corner as good it's not going to be a very agile track vehicle, which I don't know. Maybe supercars don't have to be there. So I don't know. I think there's a few things that he could do, and maybe there's no magic, and all he's going to do is going to just do all of them, right? He's going to make the battery cells bigger, which means that it's going to eliminate the casings, right? So the wasted space in the casings. And then if it makes one big module, or maybe one or two modules per pack, then he's going to eliminate all that wasted space and all that structure to separate all those modules. So that would be incremental. But if he did that, and I don't know, then there's not really going to be, that's not revolutionary, I don't think. I mean, right? Like repackaging the battery so it's more tightly packed in there. There's nothing revolutionary about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm just spewing nonsense here? Isn't 21700 3 times the energy density of 18650? No, not really. It's just a tiny bit better energy density. It is a way bigger battery in size, right? It's bigger, taller, and it's fatter. I invested $1,500 into Tesla stock when I was 14. I'm 50 now. That was 8 months ago, and that same stock is worth 8,000. Wow, that's a good deal there, Emmett Roberts. I wish I would have done that, and I didn't. I had some money 8 months ago. I could have invested, but I just felt like that's not my thing. I don't know. I don't know. I think I have trouble. I don't know. I think it's like gambling for some reason. Although in this case, yeah, you're putting money in a company that's actually making a physical product, so it's not really like gambling. It's not like options trading, I don't think, right? Options trading is literally just gambling. I don't see any value of that. But Tesla is different. And so, by the way, I did buy some Tesla stock last week. It was up a few $100s in the middle of the week. Now, today, it's back to whatever, right? Breaking even. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. Maxwell chemistry. I don't know the Maxwell. I have very low confidence that the Maxwell thing is going to be part of today's thing. I don't think. Maybe the manufacturing process. Maybe that's. I'm more hopeful that maybe that's where it's going to go, but definitely not super caps. I guess that's. Yeah, he's dancing. He was just dancing. Yeah, I saw him. Yeah. Do you have a source for the plastics that go onto the Sony batteries? Do you have a source? Oh, yes, it's linked in the kit.co website, right? So you can go in there and look at that link that I have. That's where I buy mine. Let's see. More volts, it's more power. Yeah, will he do a higher voltages? Will he do a higher voltage battery system? Maybe. It would definitely improve performance. The higher voltage, right? Like all the conductors could shrink and not be as big and beefy. Although that's not revolutionary. I mean, maybe everything together, all these things that we're thinking that he can do, doing them at the same time, maybe that would be revolutionary. Maybe, I don't know. Depends how you define revolutionary. Anode-free lithium metal battery. End of story, says Bob Holland. Okay. I suspect the bigger cells will help energy density a good bit, but the dry electrochemistry should add a lot more. About 25% would be a good thing, but Maxwell was eyeing 500 watt hours a kilogram without Tesla already. Yeah, I mean 500 watt hours per kilogram would be it would be pretty good. If he announces that today, yes, then it's you are stock illiterate. Yeah, pretty much. I don't know anything about a stock. I just bought some. If you're trying to grow your market share, the price must come down. If Tesla has a new battery that has more energy density, they will shrink the battery size and reduce the vehicle price. Yes. So that's I agree with that sentiment, right? It's like batteries will not keep getting bigger. I don't think we're gonna see like a 600-mile range. Whoa.
My Tesla stock.
Oh, because you bought it a long time ago. Yeah, he was smart. My brother over here is smart and bought Tesla stock a long time ago. Yeah, he's seen huge profits from that. But not me. No, not me. I stuck with my money and I kept it here in my little company that I'm building. No, I'm not complaining. My money has done well in this year and last year, right? Within the last 2 years. But yeah, definitely I could have made a bunch of money on Tesla stock had I put some money way back then. Ooh, are they coming back? There will be a whole new better technology in the market that will blow our minds from the point we will never ever go back to fossil-driven car solution. It's almost here. I hope so. I hope you're right. So is he playing another soundless intro? Oh my God, look at that. Those are the images of the West Coast. By the way, if you guys are not in the US, if you guys are not on the West Coast, this is what our skies have looked like this past month. This is pretty incredible. We're seeing images of San Francisco. Wow. Okay, so we're about to start.
Hello, everyone.
Battery day, battery day, battery
Sure.
day.
Thanks, Elon. Oh, hi. I'm Drew Baglino, SVP of Powertrain and Energy Engineering at Tesla, and I'm incredibly excited to talk about what we've been doing at batteries here at Tesla.
Great. So let's see. You got the
Yeah,
clicker.
I've got the clicker. Yeah.
Okay. Let's I'll take it first, perhaps.
Sure.
So obviously the issues we're facing are very serious. With climate change, and we're experiencing these issues on a day-to-day basis. It's incredibly important we accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. Time really matters. This presentation is about accelerating the time to sustainable energy. So the past 5 years were the hottest on record. We have what looks like a wall for CO2 ppm. It's obviously, this time is not like the past. It's really important that we take action. Running this climate experiment is insane. So,
Especially when it's just a transitory one anyway.
yes.
We're going to run out of these fossil fuels. Let's just move to the future and not run this experiment any longer.
Yeah. Talk a bit louder.
You got it.
Okay. So anyway, there is a lot of good news though. What a lot of people may not be aware that wind and solar comprise 75% of new electricity capacity in the U.S. this year. So this is a really major.
70%.
So the grid is going sustainable very, very quickly. Now it's also worth noting that the length of time that power plants last is on the order of 25 years. So even if 100% of energy generation was sustainable, it would still take 25 years to convert the grid. And it's also worth noting that in the past 10 years, power production from coal has dropped in half. So it went from 46% of electricity in 2010 to 23% in 2020. So this is a massive improvement. So good things are happening on a lot of levels. We just need to go faster. So in terms of Tesla's contribution, we've delivered over 1 million electric vehicles, 26 billion electric miles driven, and many gigawatt hours of stationary batteries, 17 terawatt hours of solar generated. So I think solar is sometimes underweighted at Tesla, but it is a massive part of our future. The three parts of a sustainable energy future are sustainable energy generation, storage, and electric vehicles. So we intend to play a significant role in all three. So to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, we must produce more EVs that need to be affordable and a lot more energy storage while building factories faster and with far less investment. So goal number one is a terawatt-hour scale battery production. So tera is the new giga, and a terawatt is 1,000 times more than a gigawatt. So we used to talk in terms of gigawatts. In the future, we'll be talking in terms of terawatt hours. So this is what's needed in order to transition the world to sustainability.
Yeah, and you can see we're talking about 100x growth in batteries for electric vehicles to achieve this mission. And we are going to get there. It's just a matter of how fast, and our intention is to accelerate it.
Yeah. You basically need on the order of roughly 10 terawatt hours a year of battery production to transition the global fleet of vehicles to electric.
And the average vehicle lasts 15 years, so we're talking about 150 terawatt hours, give or take, to transition the whole all vehicles of all types to electric.
Yeah, so it's a lot of batteries, basically. Yeah, so.
And then on the grid side, we have a similar mountain to climb, 1,600 times growth from today's grid batteries to go 100% renewable on the grid and to take all of the existing heating fossil fuel uses in homes and businesses 100% electric.
Yeah, and this number, I think, might grow even more, as the world economy matures and as countries with high populations industrialize, we could see this number be even more. But let's say it's like roughly 20 to 25 terawatt hours per year, sustained for 15 to 25 years to transition the world to renewable. This is a lot.
Yeah.
So today's batteries can't scale fast enough. They're just too small. For Giga Nevada, 150 gigawatt hours per year is like what we probably expect to make out of there. But this is really pretty small in the grand scheme of things. That's only 0.15 terawatt hours. And they cost too much. So
We would need 135 fully built out Nevada gigafactories to achieve 20 terawatt hours a year. It's not scalable enough of a solution. We need a dramatic rethink of the cell manufacturing system to scale as fast as we can and should.
yeah, and I think we should view this as more than just a question of money. Money is sort of like an ethereal thing, but it's really the amount of effort. You have a certain amount of effort, in terms of people and machines, and depending on how efficient that effort is, for a given amount of effort, you want the most amount of batteries. So it's not just a question of like, well, if we had $2 trillion, tomorrow you could make this. It's not that easy. You actually need to organize a massive number of people, build a lot of machines, build the machines that make the machines. And so it's incredibly important to have that effort yield the most number of batteries. So, and then goal two, obviously, we need to make more affordable cars. I think one of the things that troubles me the most is that we don't yet have a truly affordable car, and that is something that we will make in the future. But in order to do that, we've got to get the cost of batteries down. We've got to make, and we've got to be better at manufacturing, and we need to do something about this curve. The curve of the cost per kilowatt hour of batteries is not improving fast enough. So we've given this a lot of thought over many years to say, okay, how can we radically improve the cost per kilowatt hour curve? It's been somewhat flattening out actually in recent years. So
I mean, early growth was promising, but you can see we're kind of plateauing. So that's what's motivating us to rethink how cells are produced and designed.
Yeah, exactly. And EV market share is growing, but EVs, still aren't accessible to all. And you can see, as Drew was saying, it's like starting to flatten out a little bit because the rate of improvement of the affordability of cars is just not fast enough. So that's why we got Battery Day.
Yeah. To make the best cars in the world, we design vehicles and factories from the ground up. Next.
Yeah.
And now we do this for batteries as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The slides don't show up quite right. Anyway. But what shows up on the screen is not quite what shows up there. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's different.
Yeah, I think it's because that's, yeah.
No, that one's current, supposed to be current. Anyway.
So let's get started. We have a plan to halve the cost per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And it's not a plan that rests on a single innovation, some research project that'll never see the light of day. It's a plan that has taken creative engineering and industrialization across every facet of what makes a cell into a battery pack, from raw material to the finished thing. And we're going to go through that plan with you today, step by step, and build up how we get to these goals and how we accelerate this transition and make our vehicles and our grid batteries more affordable.
Yeah. I mean, we basically thought through every element of the battery, well, almost every element. There are a few more elements that we won't get to today, but we will get to in the future.
Yes. So first, before we get too far into it, let's talk about what is in a battery cell. We've got the cap and the can, negative and positive terminals of the cell. When you open that cell, you've got a tab connected to those terminals, what we call the jelly roll, which is the wound electrodes on the inside. You can actually see what this looks like as you unwind it. This is over a meter long in a typical 2170 cell. So it's quite a long winding process. And you can see the tab still there. And then to explain what's actually going on here, we've identified we've got anode, cathode, separator, positive and negative terminal. Watch what happens as we, there we go, discharge the cell. Got lithium moving from anode to cathode, and then the reverse when we charge the cell. anode moving from lithium moving from cathode to anode across the separator. This is the basic of what makes all lithium-ion batteries, whether they're no matter what the form factor is. And when we look at what's happened to date, at least in our products, we've moved from the 18650 form factor to the 2170 form factor through great collaboration with our partners, Panasonic, new partners like LG and CATL, and probably others in the future.
Yeah. Actually, so a slight note on why is the one called the 18650, although not on the slide, versus the 2170, is that the first two digits refer to the diameter, and the second two digits refer to the length. So that helps explain why are these weird. What's up with these weird numbers? But like nobody could explain to me why there was an extra zero. So I said like, okay, well we're deleting the zero that nobody can explain in future form factors. So that's why it's technically it's like the 18650 bizarrely, but going forward it's the 2170 because we just got rid of the extra zero because it's pointless.
And this was a evolutionary step, going from 1865 to 2170, bringing 50% more energy into the cell. But when we look to the ideal cell design, if we were to do it ourselves, we need to go beyond just what we're looking at us in front of us, and study the full spectrum of options. So as you can see, we kind of swept the key figures of merit, how much we can reduce the cost, and how much vehicle range increases as we change the outer diameter of the cell. We found a sweet spot somewhere around 46 millimeters. But it's not just about a bigger form factor. Like anybody could make a bigger form factor.
Any fool could make a bigger form factor. We not any fool.
Yeah, exactly. There are problems as you make cells larger. In fact, supercharging and thermals in general become really challenging as you make bigger cells. And this was the challenge that our team set our sights on to overcome. And we did. We came up with this tabless architecture that maybe you've heard about, that basically removes the thermal problem from the equation and allows us to go to the absolute lowest cost form factor and the simplest manufacturing process. And this is what we mean when we talk about tabless. It's kind of a beautiful thing.
That's what these T-shirts mean, but it's very esoteric. It's like nobody could figure it out. But
yeah, we basically took the existing foils, laser patterned them, and enabled dozens of connections into the active material through this shingled spiral you can see, with simpler manufacturing, fewer parts, 50 millimeter versus 250 millimeter electrical path length, which is how we get all the thermal benefits.
Yeah, this is important to appreciate. Like basically the distance that electron has to travel, is just much less. So you actually have a shorter path length in a large tabless cell than you have in the smaller cell with tabs. This is a big deal. So even though the cell is bigger, it actually has more power. The power to weight ratio is actually better than the smaller cell with tabs. This is, again, like this is quite hard to do. So it's nobody's done it before. And it really took a tremendous amount of effort within Tesla engineering to figure out how do we make a freaking tabless cell and have it actually work and then connect that to the top cap. And it's there's a whole bunch of things that we're keeping a little secret sauce here that we're not telling everything. But
sometimes what's elegant and simple is still hard, and it took us a lot of trials, but we're happy where we ended up.
Yeah, I mean everything's simple in recollection. After you simple, everything it's hard until it's discovered, and then it's simple. So anyway, there's a lot of really cool things going on that enable tabless, and it's really due to a really great engineering team. Drew and the rest of the team have done amazing work in achieving this tabless construction. And it sounds, I think it may sort of sound a bit silly to some people, but this is like, for people that really know cells, this is a massive breakthrough.
For cylindricals to be able to get rid of the tabs dramatically simplifies winding and coating.
Yeah. And
has an awesome thermal and performance benefit.
Yeah, that's just to elaborate on that a bit. It's like when the cell is going through the system, it has to keep stopping where all the tabs are.
Yes.
So you can't do continuous motion production if you have tabs. You have to keep stopping, and then there's a rate at which you can start and stop and accelerate again. and really slows down the rate of production. And then sometimes you get the tabs wrong, and you also lose a little bit of active area. It's really a huge pain in the ass to have tabs from a production standpoint.
Yes. And so when we put it all together and go to our new 80 millimeter length, 4680, we call this new cell design, we get 5 times the energy with 6 times the power and enable 16% range increase just form factor alone.
Yeah, so these, yeah, it's pretty great. And just to clarify, when we see these plus 16% or whatever the percentage range increases, these are the amounts due just to that particular innovation.
Yes.
So we'll list a whole bunch of innovations, and then when you add them up, you get a total improvement in energy density and cost. But these numbers are what refer to just this thing.
Yeah, and I want to stress, this is not just a concept or a rendering. We are starting to ramp up manufacturing of these cells at our pilot 10 gigawatt hour production facility just around the corner.
Yeah. So.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a video of some of what's going on in the plant.
Oh.
Now, I mean, to be clear, it will take about a year to reach the 10 gigawatt hour capacity. So this is important to appreciate. Like when you build a factory, there's a certain capacity that you design to, and then it takes some period of time to actually achieve that capacity. So I would say it's probably about a year before we get to the 10 gigawatt hour annualized rate with the pilot plant. And this is just a pilot plant. The actual production plants will be more on the order of maybe 200 gigawatt hours, maybe more over time.
And thank you. But let's stack up everything we just saw at the cell level. So just the cell form factor change enables a 14% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction, just that cell form factor change. And now that you've been teased on this factory, we're going to go on and walk step by step through that factory and discuss a series of innovations there. When thinking about the ideal cell factory, we have inspirations behind us in the paper and bottling industry, where from humble beginnings, over a century of innovation has enabled mass scale, continuous motion, unbelievably low manufacturing cost. And when we think about the lithium ion industry, which is really only in its 3rd decade of high volume production, it has so far to go to achieve similar scale and simplicity. And that was the inspiration that we set out to the team as we thought about how to marry cell design and manufacturing in the best possible factory. And let's talk a little bit about what's in a cell factory. First, there's an electrode process where the active materials are coated into films onto foils. Then those coated foils are wound in the winding process we just talked about, where if you do have tabs, you have to start and stop a lot. Then the jelly roll is assembled into the can, sealed, filled with electrolyte, and then sent to formation, where the cell is charged for the first time, and where the sort of the electrochemistry is set and the quality of the cell is verified. And we set out at every step of this process to try to take that inspiration we just showed and think about how we make those processes fundamentally better and more scalable. And one of the most important processes is where it all begins, the wet process of the electrode coating. And just to give you all a sense of scale, I'm going to walk through what's in that wet process. You've got mixing, where the powders are mixed with either a water or a solvents for the cathode. That mix then goes into a large coat and dry oven, where the slurry is coated onto the foil, huge ovens, tens of meters long, dried, and that solvent then has to be recovered. You can see the solvent recovery system. And then finally, the coated foil is compressed to the final density. And when you're looking at this, you're like, wow, that's a lot of equipment for one step, especially when you consider that little speck next to the coating oven is a person. This is serious serious iron involved in making batteries. Wouldn't it be great if we could skip that solvent step, which is one of those dig a ditch and then fill it kind of things where you put the solvent in and then take it out and recycle it, and just go straight to dry mix to coat? And that's what the dry process really is about. And in the most basic form, you can see it here on a bench top. Literally, powder into film. As simple as that.
I mean, it's hard, actually, just to be clear. So, you know, if this was easy, everyone would do it. So it's not like dry coating electrode is actually easy. It's actually very hard to do what appears to be a simple thing. And it's worth noting, like, you know, we did acquire Maxwell as like a little over a year ago, I guess. And you know, it's certainly a good company and everything, but the dry coating they had was like, is like sort of, I would call proof of concept. Since the acquisition, we've actually revved the machine that does the dry coating 4 times. So we're in revision 4 post-acquisition of the machine, and there's still a lot of work to do. So I would not say this is like completely in the bag. It's still a lot of work to do, and you know, as you go from like benchtop to lab to pilot to volume production, there are actually major issues that you encounter at every level. It's not like, you know, you make something work on your bench and bingo, now you can make a bazillion of it.
Absolutely.
It's insanely difficult to scale up.
Yeah, but if you do scale it up,
yeah,
what you saw before becomes this.
Yeah.
So you can see the motivation. A 10 times reduction in footprint, a 10 times reduction in energy, and a massive reduction in investment. But as Elon was saying, simple is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I would like to not say that right now it's just totally working. It's close to working, but it's not, even now, at the pilot plant level, it is close to working. Well, it's fair to say it does work, but with not a high yield.
Yeah.
So
we're still ironing out the kinks, but we've made tens of thousands of cells, thousands of kilometers of electrode. I mean, we are on the 4th generation of the equipment, so we've learned a lot along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it is super demanding because every atom has its place if you want to deliver the energy density and the cycle life and the supercharging.
Yeah.
But we're confident that we will get there, but it will be a lot of work along the way.
There's a clear path to success, but a ton of work between here and there.
Yep.
So
isn't that
this is
everything in
a
life?
really profound improvement. Again, for people that know battery manufacturing, this is gigantic. We'll probably be on machine revision 6 or 7 by the time we do large-scale production. The rate at which the machines are being improved is extremely rapid. Like literally every 3 or 4 months is a new rev.
Yeah, and beyond the electrode, we continue to innovate on every other process step. So let's talk a little bit about assembly, which is next. The key to a high-performing assembly line is accomplishing processes while in motion, continuous motion, and thinking of the line as a highway, max velocity down the highway, no start and stop, no city driving.
Exactly, no stoplights and traffic lights or anything. You want the highway.
I want the highway.
Yeah.
And together with our internal design team that makes this equipment and designs this equipment, we coupled thinking about how to make the best cell with thinking about how to make the best equipment so that we could accomplish the fastest parts per minute rates on all of these tools. And through all of that development, we were able to get to the point where we can implement assembly lines, 1 line, 20 gigawatt hours, 7 times increase in output per line. And when you're thinking about scalability and pure effort, having 1 line be 7x the capability is just effort multiplying.
Yeah. So.
So that's how we're getting our cheaper
You
batteries.
can sort of think about like the sort of the fundamental physics of a factory or something. Like, I think it's actually quite a lot like the rocket equation, where you've got basically in the rocket equation you've got your exhaust velocity and then the log of the start to end masses. So it's basically saying, you know, how fast are things going and what percentage of the factory volume is doing useful work. And conveyance does not count as useful work. So
only the value-added steps.
Yeah, if you break the factory down into cubic meter sections, and say, or smaller, it could be like 1 liter sections, and say is a majority of this volume doing useful work. You would be astounded at how bad most factories are. They're like maybe 2 or 3%, including our factory in Fremont. So I think it is possible to get to at least 10 times that volumetric efficiency. So more like 30% ish, maybe more, and be 10x better, which means the factory can be 10 times smaller. And then the other thing is how fast are things going through the factory. It's like speed and density. The faster you go, like if a factory that's moving at say twice the speed of another factory is equivalent to two factories basically, and the company that will be successful is the company that with one factory can accomplish what other companies take 2 or 3 or 4 factories to do. So this is what we're trying to do here is say, okay, how do we with one factory achieve what maybe 5 or even 10 factories would normally be required to achieve?
And the vertical integration with the machine design teams at Groman and Hybar and others allows us to really accomplish that, because we don't have all these edge conditions between one piece of equipment and another. We can design the entire machine to be one machine and remove all of these unnecessary steps.
Yeah, I mean, basically Tesla is aiming to be the best at manufacturing of any company on Earth. This is the thing that's actually most important in the long run. I think, just from a company standpoint and from basically achieving sustainability as fast as possible, but I think also for long-term competitiveness, eventually every car company will have long-range electric cars. Eventually every company will have autonomy. I think, but not every company will be great at manufacturing. Tesla will be absolutely head and shoulders above anyone else in manufacturing. That is our goal.
Manufacturing is hard, and hard problems are fun to solve. Okay, now let's talk about formation. In a typical cell factory, formation represents 25% of the investment. And what is formation? It's charging and discharging cells and verifying the quality of the cell. Turns out we've charged and discharged billions and billions of cells in our vehicles, so we know a thing or two about that. The typical formation setup is you charge and discharge each cell individually. In our car, we charge thousands of cells at once. And we took our principle and our power electronics, leveraging Powerwall, vehicle battery management systems, and others, to dramatically improve the formation equipment cost effectiveness and density. 86% reduction in formation investment, 75% reduction in footprint.
So.
You want to take this one?
Sure. So essentially what this translates to, based on what we know today, is about a 75% reduction in the investment per kilowatt hour or gigawatt hour. It's just basically 4 times better than the current state of the art to the best of our knowledge. Wow. And I think there's probably room to improve even beyond that.
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah. So we're able to, from a volume standpoint, actually get what, in a smaller form factor than Giga Nevada, we were able to get many times the cell output. So you can see, like, basically we can get a terawatt hour in less space than it took to make a gigawatt hour, 150 gigawatt hours. So this is pretty profound. It's like, I would actually not have thought this was possible several years ago, that we could actually get to terawatt hour scale in less space than what we currently envision for doing 150 gigawatt hours. So
yes, simpler accelerates terawatt hour scale, and that's what we need to do to accelerate our mission. And as Elon said, we're going to try to even improve on this as we push towards our goals, which are.
Yeah. So this is just for. This is just talking about Tesla internal cell production. As I tweeted out earlier, we will continue to use our cell suppliers, Panasonic and LG and CATL, and so this is 100 gigawatt hours supplemental to what we buy from suppliers. Yeah, essentially, this does like reduce our weighted average cost of a cell, because it allows us to make a lot more cars and a lot more stationary storage. And then long term, we're expecting to make on the order of 3,000 gigawatt hours or 3 terawatt hours per year. I think we can. I think we've got a good chance of achieving this actually before 2030, but I'm highly confident that we could do it by 2030.
When you look at the size of that factory on the previous page, it really shows how enabling all of these advancements are in achieving a 3 terawatt hour goal by 2030. And not only is all of that manufacturing innovation fantastic for enabling scale, it's also an additional 18% reduction in dollar per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
So we have a manufacturing system. We've got a cell design. What are the active materials we're going to put in that cell design? Let's talk about the anode first. Let's talk about silicon. Why is silicon awesome? It's awesome because it's the most abundant element in the Earth's crust after oxygen, which means it's everywhere. It's sand.
Yeah. Sand is silicon dioxide.
Yeah. And it happens to store 9 times more lithium than graphite, which is the typical anode material in lithium-ion batteries today. So why isn't everybody using it? The main reason is because the challenge with silicon is that it expands 4x when fully charged with lithium. And basically, all of that expansion stress on the particles start cracking, they start electrically isolating, you lose capacity, the energy retention of the battery starts to fade, and it also gums up with a passivation layer that has to keep reforming as the particles expand.
Yeah, basically, with silicon, the cookie crumbles and gets gooey. That's basically what happens.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
And current approaches to solve this, which exist, I mean, we have silicon in the cars that you're all in right now, are involved highly engineered, expensive materials in the scheme of things. Now, they're still great, and they enable some of the benefits of silicon. They just don't enable all of it, and they're not scalable enough. And you can see some of the things that maybe you've heard of, SiO, silicon with carbon, or silicon nanowires. I mean, that's kind of the space right now. What we're proposing is a step change in capability and a step change in cost. And what that really is to just go to the raw metallurgical silicon itself. Don't engineer the base metal. Just start with that and design for it to expand in how you think of the particle in the electrode design and how you code it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw this. Basically, $1 per kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
Basically, if you use simple silicon, it's dramatically less than even the silicon that is currently used in the batteries that are made today. And you can use a lot more of it.
The anode would cost, with this silicon, and the anode costs $1.20 a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And how does it work? Start with raw metallurgical silicon, stabilize the surface with an elastic ion conducting polymer coating that is applied through a very scalable approach. No like chemical vapor deposition, no highly engineered high capex solutions, and then integrated into the electrode through a robust network formed out of a highly elastic binder. And in the end, by leveraging this silicon to its potential, we can increase the range of our vehicles by an additional 20%, just this improvement.
Yeah, it gets cheaper and longer range.
Yeah, and when we take that anode cost reduction, we're looking at another 5% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction at the battery pack level. And there's more. Let's talk about cathodes. What is a battery cathode? Cathodes are like bookshelves where the metal, the nickel, the cobalt, the manganese, or aluminum is like the shelf, and the lithium is the book. And really, what sets apart these different metals is how many books of lithium they can fit on the shelves and how sturdy the shelves are. Cobalt is a...
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, like, it's tough to exactly figure out what the right analogy is to explain cathode and anode, but a bookshelf is probably a pretty good one, in the sense that you need a stable structure to contain the ions. So you want a structure that does not crumble or get gooey, or basically that holds its shape in both the cathode and the anode. As you're moving these ions back and forth, it needs to retain its structure. So if it doesn't retain its structure, then you lose cycle life and your battery capacity drops very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people are always talking about, like, oh, what's the cathode going to be? Is it NCA or whatever, the thing to consider is just fundamentally what the metals are capable of, and that's what we have on the chart here. Dollar per kilowatt hour cathode of just the metal, using just LME, London Metal Exchange prices, versus the energy density of just the cathode. And you can see nickel is the cheapest and the highest energy density, and that's why increasing nickel is a goal of ours and really everybody's in the battery industry. But one of the reasons why cobalt is even used at all is because it is a very stable bookshelf. And the challenge with going to pure nickel is stabilizing that bookshelf with only nickel. And that's what we've been working on with our high nickel cathode development, which has 0 cobalt in it. Leveraging novel coatings and dopants, we can get a 15% reduction in cathode dollar per kilowatt hour.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
But it's not just about nickel. You want to?
Yeah, sure. So in order to scale, we really need to make sure that we're not constrained by total nickel availability. I actually spoke with the CEOs of the biggest mining companies in the world and said, please make more nickel. It's very important. And so I think they are going to make more nickel. But there's also, I think we need to have a kind of a 3-tiered approach to batteries. So starting with iron, that's kind of like a medium range, and then nickel manganese as sort of a medium plus, intermediate, and then a high nickel for long range applications like Cybertruck and the semi. Something like a semi truck, it's extremely important to have high energy density in order to get long range. So, and just to give sort of iron a bit more time, like although if you look at the watt-hours per kilogram at the cathode level of iron, it looks like nickel's twice as good. But when you've fully considered at the pack level, everything else taken into account, nickel is about maybe 50 or 60% better than iron. So iron is a little better than it would seem when you look at it at the pack level fully considered. It's not as good as nickel. Nickel is like 50 to 60% better, but it's actually pretty good. And so, good for stationary storage and for medium range applications where energy density is not paramount. And then, like I said, for intermediate, it's kind of a nickel manganese. And it's relatively straightforward to do a cathode that's 2/3 nickel, 1/3 manganese, which would then allow us to make 50% more cell volume with the same amount of nickel.
And with very little energy trade-off. I mean,
Yeah.
Just enough to have you still want to use 100% nickel for something like a semi-truck, but really not much of a sacrifice at all.
Yeah.
And, beyond the metals, because a lot of people spend time talking about the metals, actually the cathode process itself is a big target. 35% of the cathode dollar per kilowatt hour is just in transferring it into its final form. And so we see that as a big target, and we decided to take that on. Here's a view of the traditional cathode process. Effectively, if you start at the left and you have the metal from the mine, the first thing that happens is the metal from the mine is changed into an intermediate thing called a metal sulfate, because that's just happened to be what chemists wanted a long time ago. And then when you're making the cathode, you have to take this intermediate thing called metal sulfate, add chemicals, add a whole bunch of water, a whole bunch of stuff happens in the middle, and at the end, you get that little bit of cathode and a whole bunch of wastewater and byproducts.
Yeah, it's insanely complicated. If you look at the total, like if you're just like, it's a small world journey of I am a nickel atom. What happens to me? And it's crazy. Like you're going around the world 3 times. There's like the moral equivalent of like dig in the ditch, fill in the ditch, and dig in the ditch again. It's total madness, basically. And these things just grew up as they're just kind of like legacy things that it's like how it was done before, and then they connected the dots, but really didn't think of the whole thing from like a first principle standpoint, saying how do we get from the nickel ore in the ground to the finished nickel product for a battery. And so we've looked at the entire value chain and said, how can we make this as simple as possible?
And that's what we're proposing here with our process. As you can see, a whole lot less is going on here. We get rid of the intermediate, metal, water, final product cathode, recirculate the water, no wastewater at all. And when you summarize all of that, it's to 66% reduction in CapEx investment a 76 reduction in process cost, and 0 wastewater. Much more scalable solution.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the fact that now we're actually just directly consuming the raw metal nickel powder, it dramatically simplifies the metal refining part of the whole process. So we can eliminate billions in battery-grade nickel intermediate production. It's not needed at all.
Yeah.
And we can also use that same process we showed on the previous page to directly consume the metal powder coming out of recycled electric vehicle and grid storage batteries. So this process enables both simpler mining and simpler recycling. And now that we have this process, obviously we're going to go and start building our own cathode facility in North America and leveraging all of the North American resources that exist for nickel and lithium. And just doing that, just localizing our cathode supply chain and production, we can reduce miles traveled by all the materials that end up in the cathode by 80%, which is huge for cost.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, cathode production would be part of the Tesla cell production plant. So it would just be, basically, raw materials coming from the mine, and from raw materials in the mine, out comes a battery.
And on that note, the way the lithium ends up in the cell is through the cathode, so then we should obviously on-site lithium conversion as well, which is what we will do using a new process that we're going to pioneer. That's a sulfate-free process again, skip the intermediate. 33% reduction in lithium cost, 100% electric facility co-located with the cathode plant.
Yeah. So it's important to note that there is a massive amount of lithium on Earth.
Yeah.
So lithium is not like oil. There's a massive amount of it pretty much everywhere. In fact, there's enough lithium in the United States to convert the entire United States fleet to electric. Like all the cars in the United States, there's like 300 million or something like that. Every vehicle in the United States can be converted to electric using only lithium that is available in the United States.
Discovered today.
What we already know exists.
People really haven't even been looking.
Yeah, people haven't been trying because it's just like widely available. So, but it is important to say, like, okay, what is the smartest way to take the ore and extract the lithium and do so in an environmentally friendly way? And we actually discovered again, looking at a sort of first principles physics standpoint, instead of just the way it's always been done, is we found that we can actually use table salt, sodium chloride, to basically extract the lithium from the ore. Nobody's done this before, to the best of my knowledge. Nobody's done this, and it's a sort of, all the elements are reusable. It's a very sustainable way of obtaining lithium, and we actually we actually got rights to a lithium clay deposit in Nevada.
Over 10,000 acres.
Over 10,000 acres. And then the nature of the mining is actually, I think, also very environmentally sensitive in that we sort of take a chunk of dirt out of the ground, or remove the lithium, and then put the chunk of dirt back where it was. So it will look pretty much the same as before, and it will not look like terrible, and yeah, it'll be nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So
simply mix clay with salt, put it in water, salt comes out with the lithium, done.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So we're really excited about this, and there really is enough lithium in Nevada alone to electrify the entire U.S. fleet.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, just what's in Nevada. That's basically so much damn lithium on Earth. It's crazy. It's one of the most common elements on the planet.
And eventually, as we said at the beginning, when we get to this steady state 20 terawatt hours per year of production, we will transfer the entire non-renewable fleet of both power plants, home heating and battery and industry heating, and vehicles to electric. And at that point, we have an awesome resource in those batteries to recycle to make new batteries. So we don't need to do any more mining at that point. And you can see why.
Yeah.
The difference in the value of the material coming back from the vehicle versus the ground, you'd always go to the vehicle. And we recycle 100% of our vehicle batteries today. And actually, we are starting our pilot full-scale recycling production at Gigafactory Reno next quarter to continue to develop this process as our recycling returns grow.
Yeah, I mean, to date it's been done by third parties, but we think we can recycle the batteries more effectively, especially since you know, we know our batteries, we're making the same battery as the thing we're recycling. So, whereas like third-party recyclers have to consider batteries of all kinds.
Yeah, and just to think about what this actually means, the recycling resource is always 10 or greater years delayed because batteries last a really long time. But eventually, it is the way that all resources will be made available, and that's why we're investing in this recycling facility in Nevada.
Yeah. Long-term, new batteries will come from old batteries once the fleet reaches steady state.
Right. Okay, so we just talked about scaling cathode and recycling. All of the benefits that you just saw are added to this benefit of a 12% reduction in dollars per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level. Almost at our halve the cost goal, but there's one more section. Take it away, Elon.
Great. So there's an architecture that we've been wanting to do at Tesla for a long time, and we finally figured it out. And I think it's the way that all electric cars in the future will ultimately be made. It's the right way to do things. So it starts with having a single piece casting, or a single piece casting for the front body and the rear body. And in order to do this, we commissioned the largest casting machine that has ever been made, and it's currently working just over the road at our Fremont plant. We have it's pretty sweet. Making the currently making the entire rear section of the car as a single piece, high pressure die cast aluminum. And in order to do this, we actually had to develop our own alloy because we wanted a high strength casting alloy that did not require coatings or heat treatment. This is a big deal for castings, especially with a large casting. If you heat treat it afterwards, it tends to deform. It kind of like does this like potato chip thing. So it's very hard to keep a large casting to have its shape. So in order to achieve this, there was no alloy that existed that could do this. So we developed our own alloy, a special alloy of aluminum that has high strength without heat treat and is very castable. So that's a great achievement of our materials team. In fact, in general, we've got a lot of advanced materials coming for Tesla, that new alloys and materials that have never existed before. So so you're basically making the front and rear of the car as a single piece, and then that interfaces to what we call the structural battery, where the battery for the first time will have dual use. The battery will both have the use as an energy device and as structure. This is absolutely the way things are done. In the early days of aircraft, they would carry the fuel tanks as cargo. So the fuel tanks actually were quite difficult to carry. They were like basically worse than cargo. You had to kind of bolt them down. It was very difficult. And then somebody said, "Hey, what if we just make the wing tanks? What if we just make the fuel tank in wing shape?" So all modern airplanes, the fuel tank, your wing is just a fuel tank in wing shape. This is absolutely the way to do it. And then the fuel tank serves as dual structure, and it's no longer cargo. It's fundamental to the structure of the aircraft. This was a major breakthrough. We're doing the same for cars. So this is really quite profound. Effectively, the non-cell portion of the battery has negative mass. So we save so much mass in the rest of the vehicle. We save more mass in the rest of the vehicle than the non-cell portion of the battery. So it's like, well, how do you really minimize the mass of a battery? Make it negative. Make the battery non-cell portion of the battery pack negative. It also allows us to pack the cells more densely because we do not have intermediate structure in the battery pack. So instead of having these like supports and stabilizers and stringers and structural elements in the battery, we now have a lot more space in the battery because the pack itself is structural. What we do is essentially, instead of having just a filler that is a flame retardant, which is currently what is in the 3NY battery packs, we have a filler that is a structural adhesive, as well as flame retardant. So it effectively glues the cells to the top and bottom sheet. And this allows you to do shear transfer between the upper and lower sheet. just like if you have like a Formula One or like a racing boat, and you have carbon fiber face sheets and say aluminum honeycomb between them, this gives you incredible stiffness, and it's really the way that any super fast thing works is you create a basically a honeycomb sandwich with two face sheets. This is actually even better than what aircraft do, because aircraft do not do this. They can't do this because fuel is liquid. So in our case, the batteries are solid. So we can actually use the steel shell case of the battery to transfer shear from the upper and lower face sheet, which makes for an incredibly stiff structure, even stiffer than a regular car.
Yeah.
In fact, if this was in a convertible that had no upper structure, it would be stiffer than that convertible would be stiffer than a regular car. So this is it's just really it's really major. So it improves the mass efficiency of the battery, and then those castings are also quite important because you want to transfer load into the structural battery pack in a very smooth, continuous way, so you don't put arbitrary point loads into the battery. So you kind of have to, you want to sort of feather the load out from the front and rear into the structural battery. It also allows us to use to move the cells closer to the center of the car, because we don't have the in the top one we've got that sort of all the supports and stuff. So the volumetric efficiency of the structural pack is much better than a non-structural pack, and we actually bring the cells closer to the center, and because they're closer to the center, it reduces the probability of a side impact potentially contacting the cells, because it has to go in any kind of side impact has to go further in order to reach the cells. It also improves what's called the polar moment of inertia, which is that you can think of like when there's a ice skater, arms out or arms in. Arms in, you rotate faster. So if you can bring things closer to the center, you reduce the polar moment of inertia, and that means the car maneuvers better. It just feels better. You won't know why, but it just feels more agile. So it's really cool. This is really major. Like I said, so 10% mass reduction in the body of the car, 14% range increase, 370 fewer parts. So, I mean, I really think that long term, in any cars that do not take this architecture will not be competitive.
And it's not just at the product level a better product, but in the factory, it's a massive simplification. You saw the part removal. It's casting machines. It's the structural battery pack. So we're looking at over 50% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour, 35% reduction in floor space, and we'll continue to improve that as we make the vehicle factory of the future.
Yeah, so it's major improvements on all fronts, from the cell all the way to the vehicle.
And in addition to the improvements we just said on enabling additional range and improving the structural performance of the vehicle, it is worth another 7% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction at the battery pack level, bringing our total reductions now to 56% dollars per kilowatt hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so stacking it up, we're not just talking about cost or range. We've got to look at all the facets. So range increase, we're unlocking up to 54% increase in range for our vehicles and energy density for our energy products. 56% reduction in dollars per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level, and a 69% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour, which is the true enabler when we talk back about how do we achieve this scale problem here.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think it's pretty nice that investment per gigawatt hour reduction is 69%. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah, just happened to happen out that way. Yeah.
I mean, 0.420%, of course. Yeah, so what this enables us to do is achieve a new trajectory in the reduction of cell cost. And now, to be clear, it will take us probably a year to 18 months to start realizing these advantages, and probably to fully realize the advantages, probably it's about 3 years or thereabouts. So, you know, it's not like if we could do this instantly, we would. But it's really I think what this bodes for, it just really bodes well for the future and means that the long-term scaling of Tesla and the sustainable energy products that we make will be massively increased. So, you know, what tends to happen as companies get bigger is things tend to slow down. Well, actually, they're going to speed up.
And they have to speed up if we're going to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy.
Yeah. I mean, long term, we want to try to replace about, at least 1% of the total vehicle fleet on Earth, which is about 2 billion vehicles. So long term, we want to try to make about 20 million vehicles a year.
But I think it's important to point out that when we talked about 3 terawatt hours by 2030, the problem is a 20 terawatt hour problem. So everybody needs to be accelerating their efforts to accomplish these objectives. Doesn't matter where you are in the value chain, there is a ton to do. You need to rethink from first principles how you do it so that you can scale to meet all of our objectives.
Yep.
And Elon?
Sure.
What does this mean?
What does it mean for what does this mean for our future products? We're confident that long term we can design and manufacture a compelling $25,000 electric vehicle. This has always been our dream from the beginning of the company. I even wrote a blog piece about it because our first car was an expensive sports car, and then it was like slightly less expensive sedan, and then finally sort of a mass market premium, but like the Model 3 and Model Y. But it was always our goal to try to make an affordable electric car, and I think probably, like I said, about 3 years from now, we're confident we can make a very compelling $25,000 electric vehicle that's also fully autonomous.
And when you think about the $25,000 price point, you have to consider how much less expensive it is to own an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So actually, it becomes even more affordable at that $25,000 price point.
Yeah. So we have and extreme performance and range, and we should probably talk about the Model S Plaid. What about that?
Whoa, 130.
Yeah. Woo. So, we took the latest Plaid out to Laguna Seca on Sunday. It got a minute 30, and we think probably there's another 3 seconds or more to take off that time. So we're confident the Model S Plaid will achieve the best track time of any production vehicle ever, of any kind, two-door or otherwise.
Wow.
And you can order it now, and it's available basically end of next year. So, and now we'll move to Q&A.
Absolutely.
So we'll invite a few people on stage.
Come on up, team.
This is just a small portion of the team, but it would be great to, show you some more of the team, and when we do Q&A, we can give various people different questions to answer.
Sounds great. Actually, I don't know how we're getting the questions.
Actually, I don't know either. Is somebody going to read them to him? Okay, well, you could just you can maybe get out of the car for 2 seconds and yell it at us. I don't know. Hey, how do we get any questions?
Oh, they're mics. Okay, wait for the mic.
Oh, there are mics. Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, we'll definitely need to give people mics because otherwise there's no way. Sorry? Okay. All right, we're going to pass some mics out. We don't have a name for the $25,000 car yet.
It's a great question, though.
Yes, we will be manufacturing cells in Berlin. Yep.
Thermal management system? For homes.
Oh, you mean like the home HVAC? Yeah, I mean, that's a pet project that I'd love to get going on. I don't know, maybe we'll start working on that next year. Because I just think you could really make a way better home HVAC system that's really quiet and super efficient and super energy efficient, and also has like a way better filter, for particles, and and it works very reliably. And we've already developed that for the car. Like, so the heat pump in the Model Y is really pretty spectacular. I mean, it's tiny, it's efficient, it has to last for 15 years. It's got to work in all kinds of conditions, from the coldest winter to the hottest summer. So we've actually already done a massive amount of the work necessary for a really kick-ass home HVAC. And they could also like stack them. So if you want to say, depending upon the size of your house or whatever, how much you need, you can just basically stack them, and just have a very compelling, super efficient home HVAC. And then you can also communicate with the car, and it'll know when you're coming home. So it's like, oh, I don't need to keep the house cold all day. I just cool it down because I knew you were coming home. So the pack can communicate with the car and just like really dial it into when you actually need cooling and heating. It'd be great.
Fun product.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Hello. Hey guys, Eli here from Tesla Owners Club, My Tesla Adventure. Just quick question. So I'm a huge fan of car camping in my Tesla with my dream case, like my all-time favorite activity. Is it going to be possible to get climate control to the back of the Cybertruck? Because that would be the ultimate camping machine if we can get all-night climate control.
We'll try to do that. Thank you. I agree. That would be really cool. Yeah.
All right, who's next?
Hello. Long-time fan, Elon, great guy. Just a question. How does the ICE industry look like in the future?
Well, I don't think there will be an ICE industry long term. So yeah. I mean, well, I guess there might be like a few things that are like, it's a like curious thing. Like, I mean, there's still like some steam engines made somewhere, but like they're just basically sort of quirky collector's items. I mean, that will be the future of the internal combustion engine car.
Hi, Elon, to your left here in the white Model Y. Ryan McCaffrey from the Ride the Lightning Tesla podcast. Curious about Cybertruck. It was interesting to see where you had it in on the battery technology front. I'm sort of curious what you see for it in the production front. Is its volume, trucks are so popular in America, do you see its volume equaling the 3 or the Y in the future? And also, were you able to get Tesla is able to legally be sold in Texas as part of the Giga Texas deal?
Well, it's hard to say what the volume exactly would be for the Cybertruck. The orders are gigantic. So we have like, I don't know, well over 500,000 orders. I think maybe 600,000 or 600,000. That's a lot, basically. We stopped counting. So I think there's probably room for, I don't know, at least like a unit volume of like 250 to 300,000 a year, maybe more. Now we are designing the Cybertruck to meet the American spec, because if you try to design a car to meet the global, the superset of all global requirements, it basically, you can't make the Cybertruck. It's impossible. It really is designed for the American market, but this is the biggest market. Our North American market is the biggest market for pickup trucks by far, or large pickup trucks. And then I think we'll probably make an international version of the Cybertruck that'll be kind of smaller, kind of like a tight Wolverine package. It'll still be cooler, but it'll be smaller, because you just can't make a giant truck like that for most markets. So yeah, but it's gonna be great. And I don't know. I think probably we'll be able to sell directly in Texas. We do pretty well right now, but it is a bit weird not being able to actually conclude a transaction in Texas. But it's got to be like a click on a server based in California. So, but weirdly, we can do leasing in Texas, but not selling. But hopefully that'll get cleared up in the future.
Yeah, Elon, great job with everything that you're doing. Thross Gerber from Gerber Kawasaki, your team's amazing. What I'm most curious about, these innovations are incredible, but on my drive up here, fully on autopilot for 400 miles, the entire state is brown, and this is ultimately about climate. Has there been some analysis done if all these things are achieved? What will its direct impact be on climate?
Well, I mean, I think it will have a very significant impact because it will stop the CO2 ppm from growing as it is every year. And I mean, I should say, like, I try to view the whole climate thing as a science question as much as possible. Science, you always question your hypothesis. Is it true? Is it not true? Or assign a probability to a given hypothesis. And I should say that my original interest in electric vehicles predates the climate issue. Like just when I was in high school, it's like I thought, man, if we don't figure out electric cars, the whole economy is going to collapse when we run out of oil. So it's like we better figure out electric cars and sustainable energy, or civilization is going to crumble. And then it was only kind of later that the significance of the climate risk became apparent. We were also able, using fracking and other types of technology, to access a lot more fossil fuels than previously thought, which is, helpful for lowering the cost of gasoline, but it's pretty bad for the total tonnage of CO2 that you could put in the atmosphere. It's now greatly beyond what people previously thought. So, but this is, as we were just going through in this presentation, it's like it is a absolutely monumental task to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. I mean, the entire global economy is still, more than 99% dependent on, or roughly 99% dependent on fossil fuels. So although electric cars kind of get a lot of press right now, they're still, and there's still very few, as a percentage of the total global fleet, is practically nothing. I would say, yes, less than 1% of the global fleet is electric right now. Because of 2 billion cars and trucks and whatnot in use. So there's a massive amount of work ahead, just insane, like hard to comprehend how much work is ahead to get the new vehicle production to be sustainable, to massively increase the amount of stationary storage, which is critical because renewable energy is intermittent. Wind and solar is intermittent. Sometimes the wind doesn't blow, and this obviously sun doesn't shine at night. So you got to have batteries, a massive number of batteries. So
it's hard to measure in direct impact, but it's an experiment that we shouldn't be performing, and the sooner we can sort of end the experiment, the sooner we can kind of move on in a fully sustainable way that is actually lower cost. I mean, I think the thing that people haven't fully internalized is once we do get to the 25K car, the ownership cost of that car is incredibly lower than the prior car. And then on the solar side and wind, with the cost of solar and wind coming down and with batteries coming down with them, the actual cost of energy on the grid is going down. So we're sort of moving towards a sustainable, lower cost future. So there's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. It is a false dichotomy to say that it's either prosperity or sustainability. This is often used, by oil and gas to say like, oh, well, do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want lower people's standards of living? Do you want to, make all these economic sacrifices, really, in order to have sustainability? And the reality, as Drew was saying, is that a sustainable energy is going to be lower cost, not higher cost, than fossil fuels.
Elon, quick question for you, right here in front. First, thanks for having everyone, and as telling a friend, the one company to go work for that's going to have the biggest structural impact over the next 10 years at scale, it's probably Tesla. So kudos to everyone at Tesla for what they've done to this point and going forward. The two questions for you, as you've looked at the auto and the storage markets, I know you've talked about it kind of 50-50 long term, but it seems like a lot of the battery cost curve achievements that you've presented today really make some of these storage opportunities much more feasible over the next 5 years. And so I guess the first part of the question is, does your calculus upon learning and improving these things change on that 50-50 mix, or is there a role where storage becomes bigger? And then the second part of the question, with all these huge grand visions, who's going to be with Tesla from a corporate perspective accomplishing these things? Obviously, Tesla can't do it alone, but when you look at some of the traditional auto industry or power, et cetera, I don't see a lot of other Teslas.
Well, actually, so there's a lot of companies in China that I think are doing great work with electric vehicles and also with stationary storage. Although we don't see that much in the U.S. yet, but I think probably we will in the future. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're doing everything we can to encourage other companies to move to sustainable transport and also, make stationary storage batteries. We opened up, made our patents freely available. We really try to tell these companies, hey, you really need to do this or you won't exist in the future. But they don't believe it, So, I mean, we've talked until we're blue in the face. What are we supposed to do? But we really are hopeful that other companies will also do what we're doing, and that will make a sustainable future come sooner.
From a fundamental market size perspective, like we did the first ground up work to show the size of the market in terawatt hours, and they are roughly 50-50. 10 terawatt hours for transportation, 10 terawatt hours for the grid. And part of that is because the grid batteries, because when you're making a power plant, you're making a large investment, are 25-year assets or greater. If the grid batteries were 10-year kind of things, the grid market would be bigger. But because it's a longer duration asset, they're roughly the same size.
Thinking long term, is there any other segments that this new battery will be able to disrupt or electrify beyond just the initial Model 2 or cheaper sedan, like a boat, boring company loop, plane, boat?
Where are you, Golly?
Are you there? What's up? Right here.
Okay, great. It's like ventriloquism here, It's like we just get the sound out of the speaker and you can't tell where the heck it's coming from.
Yeah, any hints, or is the Model 2 such a big deal because it decreases the cost of transportation that is really the disruption? Or should we get hyped that this new cost curve opens up different vehicle categories like a high passenger density bus, boring loop, boat, plane?
I mean, there are batteries in limited production right now that do exceed 400 watt-hours per kilogram, which I think is about the number you need for decent range, medium range aircraft. And I think our batteries will, over time, start to approach the 400 watt-hours per kilogram range as well. I mean, I think over time we'll see all modes of transport, with the ironic exception of rockets, transition to sustainability, or to electric, basically. On the rocket front, what we're planning to do is about 80% of Starship is liquid oxygen, and we're actually already running a power line to be able to use wind power to create the liquid oxygen. So we're making some decent progress on sustainability on the rocket front, but there's just no way to have an electric rocket, and it's important for the future of life and consciousness that we become a multi-planet species. So got to keep doing that.
Hi, Elon.
Hello.
Josh Phillips here, retail investor. I have a question in regards to the lithium and nickel industries and the likely price spikes and shortages of high-grade materials the EV industry is likely to see if they don't act fast to address future supply. Tesla have clearly made the right moves that are necessary, but there's a real worry that the potential supply issues and price spikes will create a drag on the rest of the EV industry and therefore a drag on global EV adoption. What advice would you give to the EV and mining industries to quickly solve this looming hurdles? Because for a sustainable energy future, the spice must flow. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. The spice must flow. The new spice. I don't know. I think I'm not sure. I guess we can try to like basically overdo it in cell production and perhaps supply cells to others. But we do see the fundamental constraint as total cell production. That's why we're putting so much effort into making cells and kind of reinventing, trying to reinvent every aspect of cell production from mining the ore to a complete battery pack. Because it's the fundamental constraint. We're not getting into the cell business because we, just for the hell of it. It's because it's the fundamental constraint. It's the thing that is the limiting factor for rapid growth. But we could certainly try to overdo it on cell production and perhaps sell cells to others. Although we are going at absolute top speed, so it's like it's not like we're holding it back. But I think like just making really efficient cars and that have low drag coefficient, low rolling resistance, efficient powertrains. I mean that's kind of what we've done in order to make iron phosphate still have a good range. So the iron phosphate's lower energy density solution, but there's while there are some limitations on the total amount of nickel produced every year, there's really no limit on the iron. There's so much iron, it's ridiculous. So you can really scale up iron phosphate, at a raw materials basis faster, more than you can nickel. But yeah.
And just to point out, when we were walking through this presentation, we intentionally separated all the different aspects. The benefits of structural battery apply to a iron-based cathode in the same way they apply to a nickel-based cathode.
Yeah.
So you get longer range iron-based vehicles, and also the silicon benefit can apply to the iron-based vehicles as well. So we can do a lot to extend the range of an iron-based vehicle, which is why it's a key part of the roadmap going forward. And then I invited Turner up here to talk about what the mining industry can do.
Yeah. Diversification on the cathode side is obviously massive, and EVs are all about efficiency. And so for the EV industry, for the vehicle industry, we need to see powertrain efficiency really increase at all other companies matching Tesla powertrain efficiency so that everyone can have that diversified cathode approach where LFP is used in medium range and even really make a 300-mile vehicle with LFP. And really the goal that we were trying to present here was a model for vertical integration, strategic vertical integration that a lot of different people can do. What we need to see is vertical integration that shortens the process path from mine to cathode. And what we're doing here is novel, and we're trying to push the industry in that direction. So we're presenting a model here that anyone can follow.
Yeah, in fact, if there's anything that you guys want to comment on, feel free to step forward and say something.
I think the key is to be smart about your chemistry choices, your materials choices.
Talk louder.
Yeah, if you're smart about your materials choices, the spice will continue to flow. Yeah. You don't need to use the same kind everywhere, and it's about strategically planning it out. And for miners, I think we are incentivizing them quite a bit to ramp up their production.
Yeah, and actually we had good calls. Like they're all motivated. I think that they've been sort of sitting back, being like, "Are you going to grow like crazy?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're going to grow like crazy." And then I think this indicates we're going to grow like crazy, and that's what the miners want to hear. And then they'll go make the investments.
Hello, Elon. This is Ben Limpick. I'm a musician. I was wondering, does Tesla have any future plans to make partnerships with music companies like it has done with 10-cent games or things like that for you guys to actually kind of expand your services for artists and other types of creative people to get involved in producing content that can be part of the Tesla ecosystem, or so other people that do creative things can get involved with you guys?
Well, we haven't really thought about that much, but I suppose it's probably something we should think about. We will be providing a title on Teslas. So, we're providing, more music sources that people can choose from, and generally trying to improve the entertainment experience in the cars. And I think actually, as we go to a more autonomous future, the importance of entertainment and productivity will become greater and greater. I mean, to the degree that if you're just basically sitting in your car, the car is fully autonomous and driving somewhere, it's sort of like being in the car is essentially your chauffeur, and then the things that become important are, okay, well, let's have good entertainment, and if you want to do some productivity stuff, then that actually starts to become much more important because you're no longer spending your attention driving the car. So it will be extremely important in the future.
Should we do some of the say.com questions? Yeah. Okay. Should we do the second one?
Yeah. The first one I think we already answered. Like if we're able to make enough cells, which we'll try to do, or we will supply other companies. It's definitely not an intentional effort to keep the cells to ourselves. If we can make enough for other companies, we will supply them. And we're trying to do the right thing for advancing the sustainable energy, whatever that is. So vehicle to grid, we get asked that a lot. I think one of the things that's important to note is the vehicle to grid. It doesn't, unless you have a power cutoff. Like you need to cut off your main supply to the grid. Otherwise, if you lose the power in your house, you'll basically just backflow energy to the grid. So just having a reversal in the power flow does not actually keep the lights on. You need a whole separate system to cut off power to the grid. And I think there's also the case that people really want the freedom to be able to drive and to charge at their house. And it's obviously really problematic if you get to the morning and your car, instead of being charged, it discharged into the house, and then you're sort of, okay, now I can either drive or use the battery to power my house. I think it's actually going to be better for people's freedom of action to have a power wall and a car separate, and then it's everything works. And you add that, you basically combine that with solar, either solar retrofit or solar glass roof, and local battery storage. So you basically become your own utility, and then the car is can be charged also with solar. I think that's like the stuff that works. That said, like we can certainly do vehicle to grid. And I think we can basically enable that with software in Europe or something, right?
Yeah. We are future generations of power electronics. We will be able to do this more or less everywhere from a energy market participation perspective. But yeah, from a backing up the house, and it just so happens that the way the North American connectors are on all the cars in North America, it doesn't matter whether it's the Tesla connector or the connector that the other vehicles have, doesn't actually support powering your home. It's unfortunate. So you'd need an additional hardware to do that. But yeah, in the future, all versions of our vehicles will be able to at least do bidirectional power flow for the purposes of energy market participation. But even for that, it's important to remember that your car isn't plugged in 24/7. So it's kind of an unpredictable resource for the grid. It'll have a value, but it's not the same as a stationary battery pack.
Yeah, honestly, a vehicle to grid sounds good, but I think actually has a much lower utility than people think. I think very few people would actually use vehicle to grid, and we actually had with the original Roadster, we had vehicle to grid capabilities. Nobody used it.
Yep. How do we find the engineers to do everything we're saying?
How do we find the engineers to do all these things? I guess we recruit a lot of engineers from all parts of the world. I think Tesla has a good reputation for doing exciting engineering, and that tends to attract a lot of the top engineers in the world, because they know that their efforts at Tesla will really serve the greater good, and we're super hardcore about engineering. Tesla is like first and foremost an engineering company. It's like hardcore engineering is what we do. Like the sheer amount of hardcore engineering done at Tesla is insane. And if you look at, say, there's various surveys done of engineering schools, where do you want to go? Like, what's your top choices? And actually, the top two choices last few years have been Tesla and SpaceX. So sometimes it's Tesla first, sometimes SpaceX first, but those are the two top ones.
Yeah, I mean, if you are motivated to solve some of these problems, which are the hardest problems in the world to solve, that really fundamentally enable the future we all need, please reach out.
Yeah, and
help us work on these problems.
Absolutely, and like you said, the battle is far from over. Less than 1% of the global automotive fleet has been converted to electric, and even maybe less than 0.1% of stationary storage has been done. So stationary storage has barely begun. Converting the global vehicle fleet to electric has barely begun. So there's still a massive amount of engineering work to be done at Tesla and other companies to accelerate this transition to sustainability.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
This is Jordan from Mark Asset Management. So you've talked about the importance of the factory, and you've mentioned the ground-up design process and a lot of the new things that you're going to be doing or started to do in Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin. Can you just maybe help us understand and quantify like how financially meaningful all of those improvements will be? And then given what you're trying to accomplish as a company, is it fair to assume that the vast majority of improvement will be given back to the customer in the form of lower prices?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we will try to give back as much as possible to the customers. It's not like, it's not like Tesla's profitability is crazy high. Our average profitability for the last 4 quarters is like maybe 1%. So just to be clear, it's not like, we're minting money. Our valuation makes it seem like we are, but we're not. We do want to try to make the price as competitive as we can without like losing money. And if you lose money, then if you keep losing money, you'll just die. So we have to. This thing called profit is just like we need to bring in more money than we spend, otherwise we're dead.
But affordability is key to how we scale,
Yeah.
right? Like the demand goes nonlinear as you reduce the price of the car.
Yeah, it's important to sort of separate the difference between affordability and value for money, or desirability of the product. So, for a lot of people, they want to buy a Tesla, they simply don't have enough money. We could make the car infinitely desirable, but if somebody does not have enough money, they can't buy it. Sometimes, people, kind of forget this. It's like, it's like people have to have enough money to buy the car, and just making a car super desirable but expensive does not mean they can afford it. So it's absolutely critical that we make cars that people can actually afford. Yeah. So we should
over
go
here
some of
now.
these things. Just scroll down or something. Oh.
When do you expect Tesla vehicles to beat ICE vehicles on initial purchase price? I think a way to answer that question is, in the classes of vehicles we sell today, we're already doing that.
Yeah, we're already pretty close. And then factoring in total cost of ownership, and the fact that electric vehicles require much less servicing, and are way cheaper to run. When you look at like total cost of ownership, and you can obviously lease a car. So if you just like lease a car or get a loan for a car, you've got your sort of monthly payment, and then your cost for either gasoline or electricity, and your cost of servicing. And the fully considered cost of an electric car is much less than a gasoline car of the same nominal purchase price. I mean, that said, and like maybe on the order of 3 years, when we can do a lower cost car, like a $25,000 car, I think that will be basically on par, maybe slightly better than a comparable gasoline car. So I think maybe it's on the order of 3 years-ish.
How have the technology advancements and increased vertical integration of battery manufacturing influenced your ability to improve the environmental and social impact of the supply chain? And I think, yeah.
I think we sort of have said that already.
Yeah.
Do you have some ability to scroll through this? Just scroll away.
We covered recycling.
Yeah. Well, just scroll until we've got stuff that we haven't covered.
Well, we definitely covered that top
yeah,
one.
a lot of these things we've already answered, I think.
Covered that. we.
I think we literally just answered that.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a cathode durability question. Let's go to that one. Go down, go down, go down. Good technical question. Keep going. How are you going to address the cathode durability and cost and environmental impact trifecta? Is this something you're going to leave the upstream supply chain to solve? No, I think we tried to answer that directly. I mean, we really are looking at not just what happens in the cathode facility, but like currently outside the cathode facility that should really be inside, and removing processes that shouldn't have been there in the first place, and the use of reagents that are just costly and not necessary, and removing a bunch of wastewater from the process.
Guys, is there anything you want to add to? Maybe we could like go through everyone and like maybe say what you're doing and say a few words. I don't know.
Sure. I just want to reiterate the fact that this is a massive problem.
Massive problem.
And it seems like Tesla's on its way and ahead, but we need everybody's help because it's everybody's planet, and we're not going to get to 20 terawatt-hours by ourselves. So please think about this carefully as it affects everybody. So let's get on it.
Yeah. And obviously, if you care about solving sustainability and doing hardcore engineering, definitely come work at Tesla.
Yeah, we went through a couple of the manufacturing improvements, and it kind of looks easy when you put together a nice slide deck, but the challenges are like this. It's super challenging when you take materials out of the process, when you integrate processes together. You have to do a lot of things at once, and that's like this immense engineering challenge. And so, like, to appreciate that, like, you need, like, to get through this, we need, like, the best engineers we've got. And we've got this awesome team. I just want to shout out also to all of our team watching, like, you guys are awesome. Like, you absolutely kicked ass putting this together. And, yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tesla team. Totally agree.
Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Rodney Westmoreland, managing the construction here at Tesla. What I would like to say is, one, shout out to the team. The team has been working effortlessly. A very, very tough project here for 24 hours a day, it seems like, around the clock to have this complete. The thing that sets us apart from a lot of other construction, we have a construction company here. The thing that sets us apart is that we're integrated in the manufacturing process. So every detail that comes from Drew's mouth is directly implicated into the system that we're building. That way, what would typically take 3 or 4 months to create a specification, our design team is working right with the manufacturing team to allow us to speed that process up tremendously. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a important part of the vertically integrated approach is to be able to design the factory around the equipment, in fact, together with the equipment, so that you can build the factory at lower cost and more quickly.
Yeah, I'm Scott. I focus on cell design. I think it's hard to put into words how inspiring this is. I've been at it for a long time with Tesla, and
yeah,
I really hope others do join us.
Since when, Scott?
Since 2005. Yep,
yes.
With many of you, but thank you. It. 6. Yeah, year before Drew, but who's keeping track? But I'm really stoked at what the team's been able to accomplish over the last, short period of time, about a year. It's been really an incredible transformation. I mean, hopefully what we've shown you inspires you to join us or join somebody else in the effort. And I couldn't think of a greater, more intelligent, more hardworking team to be working on with this problem.
Hi, Peter. I lead the manufacturing improvement team. And I guess the point that I would like to make is manufacturing improvements is like the accelerator. So like you think about the execution that Rodney talked about in terms of how fast we've been able to put together this factory, which is amazing and something that's been really incredible to be a part of. That's not enough. What we need to do is improve the manufacturing technology. That's the real accelerator. And that's what we're really focused on. Elon talks about it all the time, that really going and improving that system is what will enable us to get to the scale and the cost that we need. And then the other point that I would make is on the recruiting side, like it doesn't matter if you know about batteries, if you come from any industry, you can do something fantastic in the work that we're doing. We talk to people from industries that you wouldn't imagine. Like I talked to a guy who makes golf balls, and he has stuff which is really impactful for what we're doing. So, you know, if you're in any industry and you want to be, you know, impactful here, like, come join us. It'd be great.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Tony. I've been working in lithium and cathode materials for almost 23 years now, and this is the most growth I've seen in a company. I've been here a little over a year and a half. We're hiring amazing people that are allowing us to leverage technology that most of the industry is struggling to achieve. So to answer the question, how are we going to do this? We are really advancing the materials manufacturing for cathodes and for lithium beyond what has been accomplished in the previous 20 years.
It's exciting.
Yeah, my name's Turner. Work closely with the team. I've worked a lot with everyone here, and on the cathode and upstream materials side, it's really important that everyone understand that this growth is coming. This growth is real. We are going to make all of these batteries, and everyone needs to grow with us. The entire supply chain needs to grow with us. And if you have an idea that simplifies anything in the supply chain, come talk to us, come work with us, and let's do it.
Any existing specification is wrong. Any existing
That's always
manufacturing
true.
method is wrong. Process equipment, it's wrong. It's just a question of how wrong.
Yes.
Quote
Exactly.
Elon Musk.
Yes, exactly. We're wrong. Just a question of how wrong. Just try to be less wrong.
So tell us how we're wrong and how we could do it better so that we can accelerate and improve as fast as possible.
All right. Well, I guess thank you everyone for coming. I hope you liked the presentation. Very exciting future ahead. We're going to work our damnedest to transition the world to sustainable energy as quickly as possible, and your support and help is key to that success. So thanks again, super appreciated, and look forward to the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is the sound up? I'm back. All right. So that was very interesting. Unfortunately, I did miss some of it because I had to be on the phone. That had to do some other things that were very critical today. But I think I was right. I think it wasn't any of the magical. Well, it was a little bit of the magical new technologies that were touted as like the next battery stuff, right? But I guess they're less magical now that Elon has laid them out in front of us, which is why he's a great magician, like a great person, magician that shows you these things that seem crazy at first, but then once he says them and he lays them out in front of you, then you're like, oh, okay, it's no big deal. Yes, it totally makes sense. Like some of these things were like the bigger size. I'm gonna go through them here. I wrote them down. Like bigger size, right? I think it was 4580. Is that what we came to? That totally makes sense. There's no magic there. Bigger battery means less shells or casing material, which means you can have a more densely packed battery, right? And that's going to do a bunch of things. It's going to allow you to put more battery in the same space, right? And it's going to, just by having the virtue of having a bigger battery, is going to allow you to have higher performance, right? So you can have a longer range vehicle and you have higher performance standards coming out of that, right? Because, I mean, a bigger battery can put out more power, right? So that right off the top is nothing big. That's not revolutionary, really, to make a bigger battery and stuff. But then he talked about the tabless design. And the tabless design, it's a thing that I hadn't heard until just a few days ago, maybe like a week ago. I hadn't really been paying attention. And then finally read a thing on like the tabless design. And I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. I wrote in here that it's basically a round cylindrical pouch cell. And for those of you who don't know about batteries, pouch cells are like the lipos, right? Lipos are pouch cells, and those are notorious for putting out a ton of power. I mean, they go up to 100 Cs, 100 times their capacity they're able to deliver in power. And the reason they're able to do that is because they are kind of like they're flat sheets where the cathode, the separator, and the anode are there, and then each one of those has a tab. So it's not tabless design, but it's a multi-tab design, right? So every layer that goes around, it's one little battery, and they're put together, right? And each one has a tab that is going. So you have a much shorter distance for the current or the electrons to travel to the final terminal of the battery. And so that is one of the reasons. I mean, there's a couple others. The chemistry composition of the battery is one, but the mechanical one is that short tab, terminal to cathode or battery material, right, distance. And so that is the reason why those have such high performance when it comes out to power. And so that's essentially what he's building. He's building like a lipo cell, right, that it's a pouch cell, and then he's just flipping it around like a taco. And tabless design, it's not really tabless, it's like the whole thing is a big giant tab, right? And so that what that will allow him to do is have much more power output, which will allow him to have a smaller battery that can still deliver full power to these cars. And the cooling, right? And the cooling performance, thermal performance will increase on those batteries, which will allow him, again, to remove that energy or power from the cell fast, but also key here is to be able to replenish that energy back into the battery, which means that he's going to be able to increase the supercharging standards, right? So even though you have a smaller battery, maybe not, like nearing the 100 kilowatt hours, maybe like a 50 kilowatt hour battery, but you'll be able to still charge that, right, at 250, 300 kilowatts maybe, right? So shortening the charging time, right? And so I think that is a key thing here, because moving forward, like I said, people don't need 600 miles of range. They need fast charging. You need to be able to charge in 5 minutes and then gain another 150, 200 miles, and then keep going, right? And then most of the charging happens at home, so who cares? It's just for people that are on the go. Another one of the other things that he talked was the dry electrode manufacturing. And that is one of those things that to me seem like, okay, whatever. What is that? What does it mean? Yes, they acquired that technology from Maxwell, but what can they do? I didn't foresee, or I didn't understand what a huge impact that would have in the manufacturing of the cells, right? He put it in perspective there when he put those giant ovens that it takes to dry those materials that they have to coat the films with, right? And also not just the volume, right? Volumetrically, the size of this machinery that it takes to be able to do this one process, but also the time that it takes. Apparently it takes a long time for that. And so that will help him basically build more batteries in a smaller footprint, right? Just, minimize the footprint that it takes, which, he put it also in perspective and said, in the space of a factory that would put out 150 gigawatts, now he can put out a terawatt, right? Terawatt hour. So that is one of those technologies that seemed like it was, kind of fancy, kind of like, magical. And now that he kind of explained it and he showed in video form how he's just basically crushed all this material, which is like graphite, most of it, right? With some other materials in there. He just crushes it, makes it into a fine powder, and then somehow they roll it on, they crush it and roll it onto that film, but without needing a lot of solvents, I guess, right? That they're wet and they don't need to dry. So then that minimizes the time of manufacturing, and then it minimizes all that expensive and giant equipment that it needs. So that's one of those technologies that it's going to introduce, right? That I think was magical, but now that we see it. Now, he also did talk about the cathode materials and the metals and stuff, but that is around the time that I had to step out of this conversation. I stopped paying attention because I had to deal with something else. So I don't really know. I guess I'm going to have to leave that for you guys to tell me, or maybe go and watch it again, what that was all about, where he was talking about how I did catch a little bit where he talked a little bit about the fact that lithium is everywhere. It's a salt, right, in salt form, and he said that Nevada has enough to do most of what we need here, right? And you can mine it off of the sea salt, and so that the lithium is not really a problem. It's the other metals. It's like the cobalt, the nickel, the copper, and the aluminum and stuff, right? And some of those are rarer, materials, metals, and some of them are less rare, like aluminum and copper. Those, they are fairly available. They're kind of expensive. The prices go up and down and stuff, and they could be an issue too. But they're not as scarce as some of the rare metals, like cobalt and stuff. And so, I don't think he did mention about how they're planning on taking cobalt, unless that was the part that I was missing, right? But you guys tell me in the comments here if you mentioned that. Let's talk about another thing. He talked about the module redesign, right? And that is a thing that I mentioned before. It was one of those things that he had talked about, how he was going to remove the modular design that he had been using up until now to manufacture the batteries, right? And we're kind of seeing already trend going towards that, less modules in the Model 3, right? If you know anything about the Tesla batteries, in the Model S, they have 16 modules that are, about 12 inches by 30 inches or 27 inches, something like that. They're about 50 pounds. And there's 16 of those modules. And those are all in the battery, and they're separated by all these structures and technology, like, walls and stuff, so that if one catches fire, the other one, doesn't extend to the other 15 modules. All that, I think, is going away, as it did with the Model 3. The Model 3 now is a simplified version of that, and it's 4 long modules. So they have more batteries in there. Well, they have less cells, but more battery, essentially, right? Each one of those is about 20, it's like 18 to 20 kilowatt hours per module. So these become much bigger modules. And I think he now, in today's conversation, is talking about changing that even further and making the battery a structural part of the vehicle. At that point, then there's less wasted space. There's stuff that the battery's part of the vehicle. It's not a thing that you bolt into the vehicle. It's like actual part of the vehicle. The walls, what I believe in this case would be the floor, right? And it would add rigidity, because this is a very dense part. I mean, batteries are very dense. They have a lot of material, right? It weighs, a typical Tesla battery weighs about 800 pounds, right? And then you add all the structures that go into encasing it, and you're talking about like 1,200 pounds on a Model S. I think it's a little bit less for the Model 3s because it's a smaller battery and it's a smaller car. But now, basically, less of that is going to be structure to house the battery, and more of it is going to become car material, right? Car mass. And I think that is a very interesting design, or very interesting, philosophy going forward. Because why do you need to be wasteful when it comes, right? I mean, that will help in many aspects. It will make the space for a bigger battery to be installed in the car, and I guess structurally it's going to help the car too, because it's going to be stiffer, right? And stiffer is good. You want to have a structure that's stiff, and then you can engineer how you put crumple zones in there and all this stuff. So it's going to increase safety and all this other stuff, which is pretty good. And all of those things added up to about 50% reduction in costs, which that is a good thing, right? If we are, I don't know, do we actually know? I don't know if we actually know the price that Tesla pays per kilowatt hour for battery. But I think I've read things where it's like about $100 like kilowatt hours. So if he said something like 57% or some reduction, which means what? Are we somewhere around, or are they gonna be, once this is all implemented, around $50 a kilowatt hour? Now that's a huge improvement in the cost of a battery production, right? And so if that is the thing here, then that's it. They did it. They're going to do it. Except for the one part that this is not implemented right now. There's a lot of this is testing. This is a roadmap, right? He explained that it's a roadmap. And I think that's where a lot of the, well, there's going to be disappointment, I think, when on the analysts and people that are following this that thought that he was going to announce something that, okay, now we're using it, you can order it now, kind of thing. I don't think so. I think this is going to take some years to implement every single one of these things, and it's a roadmap, and which is kind of disappointing. But at the same time, it's not, because he's laying it all out. There's no magic. Once again, there's no magic. And even the magical technologies, once you look further into them, you're like, oh, there's no magic here. It's just a lot of hard work, a lot of good engineering, and a lot of good execution from his part and his teams. What was missing from the conversation? Apparently vehicle to grid does not make sense to Elon. And I guess it's true. When you really think about it, we're not there yet. It is cool to have a giant battery connected to your house in an emergency situation, right? But like he said, you do need to disconnect from the grid. You can't just use grid-tie inverters, right? Which is, it's not that hard to do, but it's non-standard. So none of our homes in the U.S. and any of the states are ready to do this. It's not like, oh, you just change something in the car and then put a different charger with a different connector. It's like, it's more than that. You have to install inverters. You have to install transfer switches, basically, right? And this is weird because this is all things that he's already doing when he's installing a power wall. This is all the stuff that is needed. So it's not impossible. It's not even hard. It's just I don't think he sees a compelling case for having that right now. And I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, I don't know, right? I think he sees it as like you need to have a separate battery for your house and a separate battery for your car, because it's bound to happen. When you need that battery to power your house, you're also going to need to go to the store or take off to do something. And then you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to be like, well, do I keep the car plugged in so they can power the house? Or, so you never want to be in that situation where you have to choose between those two. And so maybe he's right. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you think he's right about that. Also, part of the conversation was missing lithium iron phosphate. They kind of touched a little bit on this Q&A thing, but he really didn't talk how that fits into the roadmap, right? As far as we know, lithium iron phosphate has lower energy dense, and so those batteries are bigger and they're heavier, so that means you can't achieve the same level of performance that they're going. It's also not cheaper, I think, because it's made in less units or is produced in less quantities. It's higher right now. Like, if you can't buy cheaper lithium iron phosphate batteries, right? And also because lithium iron phosphate tends to be really good at like energy storage, right? So they have long cycle life, right? It's it's not rare to see 3, 4, 5, 6,000 cycles ratings on these batteries. And they're also ultra safe. So they're really safe to put in your home. They will not catch fire. They will vent at the very most, right? They're not as reactive. They're not as flammable as lithium coal oxide and lithium manganese, all those other chemistries that are, leading the way in energy density and power density and all those aspects of batteries. So he really didn't talk about how that fits. I heard today was saying that those make sense for the low to medium range applications, right? So vehicles that don't need to have hundreds and hundreds of miles of range, maybe stuff that, which I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, their cars are kind of general use. They kind of need to have at least 200-300 miles, right? I think that's That's the sweet spot that we have right now until the infrastructure gets a whole lot better and we have superchargers everywhere. Also, the big one that was missing from the conversation was the 1 million mile battery. He didn't talk about the 1 million mile battery, right? All this stuff was about reducing cost, about improving manufacturing processes so it becomes cheaper, right? And becomes the footprint smaller, so there's less complex, I guess. But none of this talked about cycle life. And so how is he going to reach to the 1 million mile battery? He didn't talk, at least from when I was paying attention, right? If I'm wrong, post it in the comments there, because I didn't hear about how the 1 million mile is going to be achieved. So is that a thing that's still for the future? Is that no longer the case? Is that a thing that maybe he doesn't think is achievable? I don't know. Like, it's weird to see. Also part of the conversation here missing, of course, this is the thing that I called it a long time, and every time that I'm ever asked about this, is the supercaps. Supercaps don't play a role in this thing. They don't need them. We don't need them. They are useful for the thing that they do, but whatever the thing that they do, we don't need. We need batteries. We need energy storage devices that have different characteristics than supercaps, right? And so they didn't touch in here. I mean, I could be wrong, and then they could be part of the future, roadmap or whatever. But that's right now they didn't even mention them. Also, another thing that I saw mentioned there is the goal to be at 400 watt hours per kilogram. So that is true. I think the raw cells in the Tesla Model S are about 125 watt hours per kilogram, and then the Model 3, I think they're like nearing like 160. I think you correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm just spitting all these figures out of my just memory, and my memory is not as good as it used to be. So it turns out I'm old. New lithium mine in NC. Wonder if Tesla is involved. There we go. I don't know about that. So what do you guys think about this conversation, this event? Did he announce revolutionary things, or none of these things are revolutionary on their own, but maybe put together, if he's able to actually perform and execute this roadmap? Is the whole thing revolutionary but not a single thing? What do you guys think about this thing? Because I don't really know what to think about. I thought I was going to be... I was expecting more, I guess. That's what it comes down to. I think I was expecting... I don't know why, because he like I said, he never talks about like magical stuff, right? Like, and he's always like laid it out and it makes sense, and it's like, yeah, this is how you're gonna... But for this, I guess all the hype for this long, I was actually maybe thinking that he had something up his sleeve that was gonna blow us all out of the water. And I just don't see it. I fail to see the revolutionary thing, right, that is going to do this. In fact, I almost, he's saying this is how we're going to try to do it. And I don't know. Am I being too harsh? Do I have no idea what I'm talking about? What do you guys think? No, it was very conservative announcement, good info, but not awe-inspiring, says Paul Viskovich. Yeah, that's how I feel, right? And I should be fine with that. I shouldn't be disappointed at that, but somehow I am. I don't know why. I feel like it was... Yeah, I feel like it wasn't up to the hype. It didn't live up to the hype. And that's the problem. I think it's the hype. It's not really what he announced. Had he announced this like a week ago or something, and then we were like, oh, we're gonna have battery day. What is that? I don't know. And then he would announce all this stuff. I think we would have been like, whoa, this is mind blowing. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah. It's at 7 miles right now. It's more for keeping their stock stable. Well, are they succeeding? Well, I guess you can't look at today and just base that on that, right? But I think it's working against them. I think, by the way, I think the stock is low. I think you should buy stock right. I mean, don't take my advice because I'm not financial advisor. Oh, it's 395, right? So it's 29 down, and then what's the after hours? $28 down. So 6.73% after hours. So that's like 12% right now. 13% down today, right? So obviously these announcements didn't work to ease, or I don't know, to excite enough of the investors, I think. I don't know why the stock market's going down. I don't know enough about the markets to understand why it goes down or why it goes up. But all I know is that it goes up and down. So I don't know if you need to be selling or buying, but I think you should be buying, right? If the stock market, if the price is down, that's when you buy. You buy low, you sell high. Is that how it works? I don't know. So let's see what else. He's having a vehicle to grid for the next battery day, says Brian. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, they seem to think that the standards here in America don't allow for it. Doesn't make any sense. His advance in manufacturing advances position them for the future above all others. So I think that is true. I think it seems like whatever he's doing, he's the only one that is trying hardest, right? It's almost like that saying, that classic saying is like, don't be the smartest guy in the room, be the one that tries harder, right? The one with the best work ethic or whatever. And it seems like that's their playbook, right? It's like, oh, we're making batteries. Okay, let's look at how we can make them better, and then they're trying a little bit harder than the next guy that is making batteries, and they're trying to make them better. There's a ton of people that should be trying to make batteries better, because that is a huge thing. Like, it literally, that's about the most profitable thing that is going to exist moving forward. If you can figure out how to improve battery right now, then you can be selling billions of them, because every single phone, every single laptop, every single car now, everybody's going to have that. So I'm sure there are just countless teams of people that are trying to get into improving this, but it seems like, I don't know. I mean, this is all we've seen. I'm not talking to any of these people, and I don't know how far in their advancements are, right? So wish they talk more about the Powerwall. Let's see. I'm thinking time to buy. There we go. I think there are things revolutionary. Example, the footprint to produce 1 terawatt hour. Yeah. But here's the thing, it's not real right now. I think those are just calculations, right? Those are just like, we think we can do it. We have the little machine. We got rid of the giant oven to make this machine, but this battery's still not working, but we'll make it work. That's basically what he said, right? So it's like the floor plan or the footprint to make batteries in the future, it still could change, right? Because what if they can't get that battery to quite work the way they're doing? Like, he thinks they can do it. They're almost there, he said, right? But they're not 100% there, right? So what if they can't just get that final 5%, and as a result of that, they have to go another way that requires more, right? Maybe an oven, but not as big, maybe a smaller one, whatever. Then all of a sudden, those figures of that prediction that he's got, then they are not as valid. So I don't know. It seems like he was doing a lot more of that on this one than before. More predictions, more, extrapolations into the future as to what's going to be, more so than this is what we can do right now. I don't know. Cali Valley says buying currently vehicle to grid. Currently a matter of a cost. A car with a big battery plus a stationary one suitable for stabilizing the grid is unaffordable yet. Elon may have the future cheaper battery prices in mind. Yeah. He has a larger vision. What if utilities pay or offer incentives to purchase batteries? I think that's starting to happen. I think the utilities are moving into. I predict that utilities will get into batteries. Like they will come to you and be like, oh, we're going to install our battery in your garage. This is a thing. This is hardware now that you need to be able to receive our service. We need to put this thing. It's just like a buffer thing, and that's probably guys going to start. And then eventually, they'll have their battery in your garage. Now, of course, that might not work because that might be, more people would know that, like, no, I don't want to put your battery in my garage. I want to put my battery in my garage. But I think they're going to try something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I think million-mile battery goal is secondary to cost per unit sold. Million-mile will come inevitably. This is the massive focus on improved manufacturing improvements. I agree with you. I think it inevitably will come because if you really think about it, million-mile, if you increase the range to like 400 miles per car, then a million miles is not that much. I think it's like 4,000 cycles, like less than 5,000 cycles. I think. I don't know. Do the math. I think because I'm terrible at math, but I once did the math and I'm like, oh, you're talking about just like a few thousand cycles more than batteries are currently. I'm like, well, that's not even that hard, right? If you can cram more battery into the cars, then you can easily get that now. So I think you're right, but I wasn't into. I had the impression that it wasn't just going to be that he wasn't referring to that he was referring to an actual thing, an actual improvement, an actual technology now that would get a similarly sized battery as we're seeing today in these cars to get 1 million miles. Now, I don't know. I might have been wrong. What happened to the Roadster? It's in the future. It's in the future. Far future. It's still waiting on the next big jump. Like when we went from NICAD to LiPo, we may be close to that, but there have not been giant density changes in the last 4 years or so. Yeah. Yes, that is. I think you hit it right in the nail. That is the difference. The difference is that I was hoping that he was going to talk about the next battery, but instead, what he did was talk about how to improve the current battery technology. Right? I think that's how I could phrase that best or sum it up. And I think that's where the disappointment comes. Because I thought, like, if anyone can figure out the next battery technology is Elon. If anyone has the power to, like, do it, then it would be him. But again, I don't know why. He never does this. He usually just talks about current technology and how he's going to improve current technology and make it better and make it fit, the best case, right? But 56% reduction in battery costs, battery making speed. What do you think? They look like they were making black homemade pasta with the press. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's just a bunch of graphite and some other materials, and they just make it into powder, and they lay it. You could literally, I think you can use a paintbrush to put it in this film, right? And then let it dry, and then that becomes the, what is it, the cathode? No, the anode of your battery. And then you put another layer with copper or aluminum or nickel or with a little bit of cobalt, whatever. It's like, I guess so they explain it should be pure nickel, but because it's too expensive or something, you need to add other metals, and then you put a separator between those two, and that's a battery. And you can lay it flat, and you can fold it kind of like book form, so you can make pouch cells, or you can roll it up and make cylindrical cells, right? You can encase them in metal, right, to become prismatic cells, like or in plastic to make like those big ones. But yeah, that's essentially what they're doing. Let's see. Did someone catch the eventual energy density at the cell level? No, I didn't. Yeah, did they mention it? I didn't. I didn't see it. The cell level energy density is important. For other applications where structural integration is less of an option. 150 kilowatts, surely that played S, but can't have heavy overall with 130 already. 2,000 cycles, like charging full 5 years top to bottom, says Javier. Batteries are expected to have 50-year life cycle, almost 700,000 miles plus completely recyclable. On fast track tires, consumption is going to suck, so batteries huge. Is there a COVID resurrection? The market is down so much because COVID resurrection? Really? Is that happening? They are working on the recycling now. They imagine next step up. So yeah, they do the. Oh man, who was top of the battery thing at Tesla? J.B. Strobel, right? He went to head a recycling company and facility, Rosewood, I think it's called, right? And they are going to do the same thing, essentially. They're going to revolutionize, they're going to reinvent, revisit, and try to maximize and re-engineer the processes that are currently being used to recycle. And so that's what he's going to do. And, you can expect big contracts to go from, which is weird because they're not recycling right now in the parts in the articles that I read. They're not really recycling batteries from Tesla. I'm sure they are, but in the things, it was like they were buying like old phones, like cell phones, and taking them apart and then trying to recycle the cells. So they're testing with other stuff, but you're like, wouldn't it make sense that eventually those contracts are gonna, flow, right? Because he used to work at Tesla. That he would already be trying to recycle Tesla cells. But I guess, lithium cells are lithium cells, so it doesn't matter. 500% more energy on the 4680. 500% now. Is that really true? Being longer helps a lot for getting more out of floor space. The integrated chassis design does take away option to give the car footwells. Mining on site and creating batteries from raw, then cradle to grave to reuse is pretty big. Yeah, definitely. 546% the size of a 2070 cells, right? So that new cell is that 4680. So it's a bigger cell. So you're saying 500 more energy. So that's nothing. I mean, that is all, so it's the same. It's on par essentially. You don't really gain any. Only teaming up with Gates and pals, so maybe Strobel had enough of Musk. I don't know what that means. Are we going to see $50 per kilowatt hour? I think so. I think that is the goal. And I think that once they, from what I got from this thing, is that once they implement all of this successfully, then we will get to about $50 or even slightly less than $50 kilowatt hour. I wonder how they are going to replace batteries if they're completely integrated into the structure of the vehicle. What would happen if there was a major failure? They'll just replace the whole floor of the vehicle, right? And so the bottom part of the vehicle will just remove. So, except that there's less. I don't know what else they're gonna build in there, right? If it's part of the vehicle. So basically, there's the car's not gonna have a floor. It's like you're actually gonna be sitting on the battery. Although, how much are they saving if you're just saving one sheet of steel or aluminum? I'm sure there's more to this, right? He did show some renderings there, and we will see more. But I don't see that as being, it's revolutionary. I mean, you're just like removing one wall. But maybe not. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's more than that. Because they did talk about the fire retardant that's already in the 2170 modules that are from Model 3s as also being not just fire retardant, but it also plays a part in rigidity. So it becomes a structural part, like a bonding agent for the cells, right? So it's a glue, essentially, right? And so it serves a dual purpose, and which means that those modules are pretty tough. Tesla modules have always been really like sturdy, really tough. If you remember some of the early videos on my channel when we first got our very first Tesla batteries, this is back in like 2010 or something. We were trying to break them open to see if we can extract cells, and it was virtually impossible. And we took them up to 20 feet up, and then we threw them in the ground, see if we could break them apart, and it was really, really tough. And it's because they use very strong epoxy glues to hold those batteries in a module form, right? And so that's kind of been the case. I think with the Tesla Model S, they changed a little bit. They used less of those adhesives to put the batteries in there, but I think that they're still quite strong. And so I think now they're just gonna use that as a feature more so than just a byproduct of how they are making cells. So the most important part of the vehicle would have to be replaced, just the body frame. But I think the important thing is to note that they don't have to do a lot of maintenance on batteries. They don't seem to be having to replace a lot of modules, right? And so it doesn't make sense to have this modular design because they're not servicing batteries. For the most part, I think batteries are pretty reliable, and they just, once you put in a car, it lives out its life there, and it goes through a full range of degradation until the end of the life, right? And then that's it, it's gone. Now, they probably thought that they would have to be doing a lot of servicing, that there was going to be a lot of problems, and it was going to be a thing. I don't think that is the case. I think the case is that it's rare when it happens. It's very low numbers when it happens, so replacing the whole entire floor of a car, it's no big deal. That's what I gather, just from what I know about batteries and just from what I've heard Elon talk about, and just in interviews and stuff. Is a structural benefit, not the space. Recycle old cells in accident, which are worth good money. Million Mile cannot work with this cell, yet it seems. Might be the reason to go for huge batteries. They can fit and help life cycle, much less fast charging if battery's huge and can slow charge. I don't know, that's how it works. I think they're going to be doing even faster charging standards. I think that's going to keep going up. I don't think this is the slowest fast charging I think that exists. It's only going to keep getting higher and higher. 300 kilowatts, 350 kilowatts, 400 kilowatts. And by then they might have to change their architecture to higher voltage to be able to do that, because as it stands right now, it's like an incredible amount of amperage that has to go into that battery. At 400 volts, it's like 400 amps or something. So that's the reason why the supercharging things have to have such a short cable, right? And it has to be thick, and it has to be like liquid cooled and all this nonsense, right? Jehu, do you think this new tech will significantly reduce the cost of used modules? No, I think the used modules market is going to start drying up, and that means the batteries are going to start going higher. Like Model S modules are going to go higher. Uh, Here's the thing that I was expecting a Tesla Model 3 modules to be going down in price, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Uh, People are either finding things to do with them or they're finding ways to put them back into Tesla cars. And so that means there's not like a surplus flying around, and so they're not selling. I thought, you'll be able to find them for $1,500 a module, $1,200 a module, $1,000 a module. But that don't seem to be the case, right? And so moving forward, I don't know if they completely change all these, right? And the new way of like one single module per car comes sooner than later, then these are going to become rare now, right? Because there's not going to be a fresh supply coming into the aftermarket. And so, yeah, they're going to start going up. They're going to start drying up. So whatever's left, then it's basically what you'll have. And we're going to have to figure out how to do DIY conversions differently. Because right now it's like, the Model S module is kind of standard. 260 watt hours per kilogram now. Oh, 260. Did I say 160? Cell level pack level is more like 160 watt hours over perhaps. Oh, I think so. I think that is the difference. Yeah, it's quite a bit. That means the shell, the casing of the battery, it's quite big and heavy. They need to work on that, and I think that's the reason. That's what they're going to do now with this new structural design or whatever. That's what they're saying. Cells glued into the chassis to make a light, flimsy chassis stiff is a big deal. Seems the underside of the car will be few parts now, a battery tray that eventually is mounted to. Yeah. I guess maybe I'm downplaying because I don't know what is involved into the chassis right now, right? Like how many parts, how many pieces, how much time is taken into making that whole structure, and then you're just adding another battery box that also is over-engineered probably. So now they're taking those, those two parts and combining them into one. Could make a huge difference there. What happened to the egg bus? The egg bus is in our shop here. It's still there. You might be able to see the egg bus being showcased in the next Octa show here in Southern California. The person who redid the sign passed away this year, unfortunately, and so as a result of that, they might showcase it because that's one of his works. So if you want to see it, it's going to be there if you're a fan of BWs and stuff. Are we going to see 0 to 100% charge in 10 minutes? Nope. I think that will never happen. I think 0 to 80%, you might be able to see it in 10 minutes. That might be a thing that is possible. I think that's possible now. But it requires a big connection because these are giant batteries, right? Stock is still 10 times too high, really, except they have a bit more cash due to madness. I think it's because the savings will take years of engineering successes. Cars cannot be built cheaper now. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was a good event. I liked it. Like I said, I'm a bit disappointed because I think I was expecting to hear more talk about the next gen battery, but instead we heard about the current technology, just improvements on the current technology, right? So I want to see infrastructure improvements that make batteries less important. Bumper cars and subway cars barely have batteries. Yeah, investors may get a full self-driving association with it. Indeed, could take forever to get the machines to work. It's very ambitious and far from done. They've made 10,000s of cells only on the new ones. I guess that's what we're saying. Yeah. Thank you for coming by, Javier. Are Tesla going to get better in time? Yes, they are getting better in time. Off topic a bit, but I want to see more comprehensive and affordable kits where you can just pop in cells and have a functional module. Existing kits are pretty pricey. Yes, I think that's because they are in low production numbers, right? Yeah. Uh, we need. I need. What is that called? The scales of the economy, or what's it called when then you make a lot of them and the prices go down. But I can't reach that until I can get a handle in production. Right now, yeah, I'm still working on. I haven't released the video where I show how to do beginning to end because I'm still kind of struggling to produce them fast enough. But once that gets tackled, then I make the promotion to make that further or to get more sales. Then I think that's when the whole ball gets rolling and maybe we reach a thing where we can lower the price. But I'm just I don't know what I'm doing here, right? I'm just a guy that is trying things here and there, and so I guess I need to learn from Elon because this is essentially what he's doing, but like at a larger scale. I'm doing it at a little micro scale, and I'm going through the same hurdles here. It's like I need to make more to make them cheaper, but I make them cheaper so I can sell more, kind of thing. It's like catch 22. Economies of scale. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to do that, right, on my own little production, making the little batteries and stuff. And right now, the cheapest batteries that you can get are the used batteries. And there's quite a bit of the market is big. There's a lot of waste in America. And, as you know, recently, within the last 6 months, I've started offering some in my website, Jack35, right? And so there are more. I mean, there's so many. Right now I have to choose from. I'm like, should I buy those and so I can offer them, or should I buy these? And those are coming around. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm selling batteries on my website for like $100 a kilowatt hour. That is what Tesla pays for batteries, right? Of course, they're paying that for new batteries. We're paying that for used batteries, but they're like essentially, 95 to 100% capacity left on those because there's many reasons why people would not use those batteries and stuff. And so our DIY, activities here are, I say it's pretty good. It's never been better to get into making stuff and building your own projects and making batteries and stuff because there's a surplus of these, not just from Tesla, right? Like I don't use any Tesla batteries other than in my car here, and those are like first generation. There's so many other companies. There's so many other sources of used, batteries that are either discarded or they can't be used, or somehow they need to be resold or republished, repurposed, whatever you want to reclaim, whatever you want to call that. When they're like 90 or higher percentage of health, right, or of capacity. So yeah, I think it's healthy. I think if you're watching this channel is because you're kind of into batteries. That's what I kind of do. And so yeah, it's never been a better time to get into building some stuff, right? Including like building a battery for your home. Right now, with my system, you can build like a 10 kilowatt hour like DIY Powerwall for about $4,000, $5,000, something like that. So it's not definitely not bad. I think that price is gonna keep going down as the batteries keep going down. So make more videos on the Sambas. Yes, those are coming. Maybe I'll do one today to show you guys the state of the current conversion that I have on the shop here. Last night I was doing cables to connect the BMS. I'm using the Lithium BMS, which is one that EV West has been promoting, and it's one that is a CAN, has CAN protocol, and I think that's how it talks to the main propulsion system, and it will disable it, or it will. I think there's a way where you can. This is the first time that I'm doing this particular systems, so I think there's a way you can do it where like you can put it on kind of like turtle mode, right, where it derates the system to try to protect the battery. So those are cool stuff and cool things that I haven't done before that I'm getting to do for the first time, and those are all going to be probably used into the next conversions that I'm going to be doing that are mine. This one in particular is not mine, so I haven't been doing too many. Like I think I've done like a few Twitter videos and stuff like that. By the way, if you're not following me on Twitter and on the other platforms, then you're missing quite a bit, because these days I'm choosing to do less videos on YouTube just because I'm so busy and I just don't have the time, right? And so I'm doing whatever I'm doing, like a quick thing, and I don't have the time to produce a full video. Then I'm just doing it on the other social platforms, which is usually I have a Facebook DIY Powerwalls group, right? It's called Jehu's DIY Powerwalls on Facebook, and it's over 20,000 members in there, and I post quite a bit in there. I post like links to stuff that I come up, you know, that I don't have time to make videos, and then I post, you know, advancements on any of my projects and stuff. All right, I think this is where I'm gonna call it quits. I want to thank you for joining me. I think this was a very exciting event, and yeah, I think this is good news for the whole industry, for our, you know, hobby, and for our passion to move into more renewable energies and more renewable technologies. Yeah, I'm hoping that somehow we find a way to make batteries cheaper, even for our DIY conversions and stuff. And if not, well, I guess can all be able to drive Tesla's $25,000 vehicle whenever it comes, right? So if you can't afford a Tesla right now, hang in there. The $25,000 Tesla car is coming. It's not it's not just a dream. I remember when Elon announced that he wanted to make a $35,000 Tesla, and I thought, oh my God, that is never coming. You know, I mean, part of me was saying that. Part of me was saying like, yeah, this guy's gonna do it. And sure enough, it's here. I'm driving it. I mean, my wife is driving it. We take, whenever we go somewhere that is not on my bus, I'm on a Tesla. I'm on the $35,000 Tesla, right? So the $25,000 Tesla is coming, and more of you guys that can't afford the 35, then we'll be able to get into a Tesla. They're amazing cars, amazing technologies, and once you get into them, you definitely will not go back to the other stuff, the gas cars. So anyways, thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys on the next video. I'd like to tell you I know what it is, but I don't, because I still need a little bit more to finish my shop and to get through the current projects, and then we'll get back to making videos. I'm kind of in a hiatus right now, but I'm still putting out some content. So thank you again. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. All right, play the B-roll videos.